like to ask Kylie Dalton to meet me at the podium for our proclamation. Did it. Good job. Thanks very much. This is a proclamation in recognition of LGBTQ plus Pride Month. Whereas the town of Yountville proudly recognizes June 2026 as LGBTQ plus Pride Month and celebrates the diversity, inclusion, and sense of community that helps make Yountville a welcoming place for all. And whereas Pride Month is an opportunity to honor the history, resilience, and contributions of LGBTQ plus community members and to reaffirm the importance of dignity, respect, and belonging for all people of all identities and backgrounds. And whereas Pride Month commemorates milestones in the ongoing movement for LGBTQ plus rights and visibility while celebrating the power of community, visibility, and love. And whereas inclusive symbols such as the Progress Pride flag, which reflects the evolving diversity of the LGBTQ plus community, and stand as powerful reminders of the importance of acceptance and representation. And whereas Yountville remains committed to fostering a safe, inclusive, and welcoming environment for residents, visitors, employees, businesses, and guests. Throughout the month, the community is encouraged to celebrate Pride through acts of kindness, visibility, connection, and support. And whereas Yountville proudly hosts a variety of local events throughout June to uplift LGBTQ plus voices and celebrate Pride with creativity, joy, and unity. Now, therefore, let it be resolved that I, Margie Moeller, Mayor of the Town of Yountville, on behalf of the entire Town Council, do hereby recognize June 2026 as LGBTQ plus Pride Month in the Town of Yountville and encourage all members of the community to reflect on the importance of inclusion and respect as we celebrate together in this year. All right, thank you very much. Would you like to say a few words? Okay, thank you.
Hi, everyone. It is such a privilege to be able to accept this proclamation today. I'm not really sure which way I should face. I'll face that way. Okay.
No, do you mind facing? It's for that we need to have you on the camera.
Gotcha.
Okay, thanks.
There are a lot of folks here watching up here. So
Yeah.
too, so.
Gotcha. Okay. My name is Kylie Dalton. I use she, her, aya pronouns, and I am a program coordinator with LGBTQ Connection in Napa and Sonoma counties. I am grateful to be standing here amongst allies as we enter into what I feel to be a bittersweet Pride. Pride is rightfully a celebration of our community's love, beauty, creativity, resilience, and ultimately our survival. The LGBTQ community is under attack in our country. Our trans and gender nonconforming members are currently facing the early stages of genocide, according to worldwide genocide scholars and educators. It is hard to focus on the joyous side of Pride when every day our constitutional rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness are being stripped away by the very people assigned to protect them, simply because of our queerness, gender or otherwise. Queerness has existed the entirety of recorded history. It is natural, and it is beautiful. This Pride, I am asking our allies to not just celebrate with us, but to help us protect all that is worth celebrating. Thank you.
Thank you. Now it's time for public comment. This is public comment for anything that is not on today's agenda. If you'd like to come up to the mic and state your name if you wish. Yes, please come on up.
Good afternoon, Mayor, council members, and members of the public. My name is J.C. Greenberg, Deputy Fire Chief here at CAL FIRE and Napa County Fire Department. First off, I want to recognize the dedicated personnel serving at our Yountville Fire Station, as well as the firefighters participating in community events throughout the town of Yountville, Napa County, and our local business community. Our firefighters are proud to support and engage with residents, businesses, and the veteran community that makes Yountville such a special place. Our station personnel greatly value these opportunities to connect with the public and serve beyond the emergency response. At the same time, I want to reaffirm that CAL FIRE Napa County Fire Department remains politically neutral in all of our activities, maintaining the public's trust and providing professional, unbiased service to every member of our community remains our highest priority. Lastly, as we enter the month of June, I want to remind everyone that wildland fire season is here across California and here in Napa County as well. Yesterday, our exclusive use helicopter, the Chinook, is now stationed at the Napa County Airport to serve us here locally and regionally to protect us with our firefighting operations. This year's declared El Nino weather event has already brought significant swings in weather conditions, including record-setting temperatures in March, and more recently, the wetting rains that have accompanied us this past month, along with some lightning activity. These fluctuations create challenging fire conditions as vegetation responds to changing weather patterns. It's all important that residents remain vigilant and continue to maintain a fire-resilient posture throughout the coming months. Preparedness, defensible space, and community awareness are critical components of our collective efforts to reduce wildfire risk, protect lives, property, and natural resources. Thank you for your continued support.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mayor, City Council, City staff. My name is Jody Johnson, and I'm a senior mobile park resident in Petaluma, referred in the press as Ground Zero. I am also a volunteer vice president of Golden State Manufacturing Homeowners Association. Cities and counties find themselves throughout our state of California having to defend excessive ground rent increases, threats of closure on mobile park senior residents who do not submit to giving up their own protections. Mobile park residents in Petaluma have been met with 7 arbitrations in 2 years, numerous lawsuits, and not one culminated in an allowable increase over the allowed annual increase after large equity park owners opened their books. When park owners did not prevail in arbitrations or court, they attempted to drive seniors out of all age residents, even when a senior park overlay zoning is in place. Many cities and counties like Fortuna, Watsonville, Lake County felt that all was well in their mobile parks without rent stabilization, who were predominantly run by mom and pop ownership over the previous years, until it wasn't. An RSO is needed proactively since this new breed of bad actor, large investment group owner are in your backyard as you speak. Any defensive nature of having to protect your most vulnerable senior mobile park resident owners brought on when this new breed of mobile park owner buys adds on to immediate stress, heavy legal bills for seniors on fixed incomes, and a mental health crisis. Take Lake County. Without a rent stabilization ordinance just recently, the bad actor investment groups added $400 on top of each ground rent because they could. When the Board of Supervisors asked the park owners what the increase was for, they said it was in case the state didn't pay for water equipment. When the Board of Supervisors told the park owner that the state was paying for this work and when would they remove this increase from the resident's statement, park owners stated that the increase would not be removed since the county was considering passing a rent stabilization ordinance. We are proud that you are seeking to defend, enforce, and strengthen protections for your Yountville senior mobile park residents. Rent stabilization ordinances prevent the imposition of exploitive, excessive, and unreasonable mobile park space rent increases. Assist in alleviating the unequal bargaining power which exists between mobile home park residents and mobile home park owners. It provides park owners with a guaranteed rate of annual space rent, which over time adequately adjusts mobile home space rent rents to account for the impact of inflation on park owners' rates of return. It provides an efficient and speedy process to ensure mobile home park owners receive a fair, just, and reasonable rate of return in cases where the guaranteed annual space rent increases provided by an RSO prove insufficient to realize a reasonable rate of return. In the absence of lawful vacancy, prevent excessive or exploitive rent increases upon the transfer of a mobile home to a new mobile home owner, while at the same time providing a process whereby mobile home park owners are assured of receiving a fair and reasonable return. We may not be residents of wealth, but we are residents of value that have made a mark in this community and many other communities. Thank you in advance for bringing forth a rent stabilization ordinance, not just for today's senior mobile home park residents in Yountville, but for the future senior mobile park residents who own their unsubsidized mobile home. Preservation of this affordable housing is paramount to allowing residents to have pride in home ownership while living within their means. Finally, please pay close attention to closing all loopholes in any drafted rent stabilization ordinance. We have done 23 revisions so far because of loopholes. Yountville can be proud of taking care of their seniors. Thank you.
My name is Debbie Alterstar. Thank you, by the way, for doing the Pride celebration. I have a transgender son, and I'd asked a few years ago for you guys to adopt this flag to be inclusive, and it's here now. And many LGBTQ family members, nieces, nephews, sisters, brothers-in-laws. But why I'm here today is I want to say a few things about my belief in this town council, every one of you. I know you care tremendously about this town. And I'd like to see us at the right time move forward with affordable housing. And I will continue to come back and speak about that because it is a crisis. This woman who just spoke, I can tell you that seniors are the fastest growing homeless population in the state. And just a couple years ago, I was talking to two of our council members in Napa Valley Community Housing about someone in a mobile home losing her home, and we were trying to save it. Another woman, they were both on the verge of homelessness. So I can't stress enough that we have a responsibility as our communities to own this state problem of affordable housing, and I believe that we can all work through conflicts. Now, I wanted to mention that I think that we need to do a little more learning about this issue. There's a wonderful organization here of affordable housing. There's an organization called Generation Housing. They just put a summit here. They're mostly active in Sonoma County. They will have more programs where they explain a lot that's changing in the construction and the financing of affordable housing. And I believe, honestly, if that people understood that, they might better understand some of the earlier discussions on this project that may have scared them. And I give everyone the benefit of the doubt. My understanding is that no decisions were made. But I feel like I've also seen this movie before where we freak out in Yountville and we shut something down. And it's happened with the building of the community center that you can see is built. A lot of fears about it. It became the home of pickleball, but a lot of people could never imagine it as a senior center. And we tried and we tried. And you can't sometimes assuage fears when we're upset. We're upset, we're angry. It's like our ears and our brain literally don't work. It's the amygdala shuts down the frontal lobe at that moment of being upset. But I think that if we can look at taking to heart becoming a learning community, and I want to read a paragraph about that in conjunction with bringing programs like Generation Housing to present here might help, because many communities are abolishing parking minimums, and there's reasons for that. Many communities, actually, Napa Valley Community Housing Executive Director, she's going to come talk to folks here, they have all these shovel-ready programs that are just missing a small piece of financing. And State Senator Chris Cabaldon talked about that literally in Napa at the Latino Leader Roundtable 2 weeks ago. He has a bill being advanced. There's another one through the Assembly to provide something like $11 billion in funds maybe that communities can borrow because they miss part of the funding. The shovel-ready project gets lost. It's lost forever because it's such a difficult thing getting funding. And again, that's probably why a very innovative strategy was suggested. So this is what a learning community organization will be. This is from a book focused on schools. Is by Peter Senge, who's famous about teaching businesses to be innovative. So I'm going to change the word school for community. Every organization is a product of how its members think and interact. Organizations work the way they work because of the ways that people work. Policies and rules did not entirely create the problem in, let's say, affordable housing and communities, nor will policies and rules entirely eliminate them. The difficulties faced by communities and all organizations are always deeply influenced by the kinds of mental models and the relationships at large in that system at every level. And this is true in communities, schools, nation, et cetera. So before you change the rules, look first to the ways that people think and they interact together. Otherwise, the new policies and organizational structures and plans will simply fade away, and the organization will revert over time to the way it was before. The way it was before here is we shut things down we're afraid of. We were working on a dog park, so the last thing I'll say. Started it in 2005 with one dog, a puppy I had. Margie, you were part of that, and your husband, Tim. It took 7 years to get the council to adopt a plan to even look at that. It was when they created a new Parks Commission, but that new Parks Commission didn't have policies per se, and they believed, and the council believed, that a dog park has to be an acre. Is our dog park here an acre? No. Is our dog park here permanent? I don't think it is. I think it's a pilot. And I kept trying to say, this is all we're trying to discuss, but the process got shut down because people could not, there was no process for learning. There's no process for dialogue. The Park Commission was set up, but it was an all or nothing scenario, no actual process for community involvement and discussion at the time. So I would like to suggest as we go forward and we choose a new town manager and do other things, that we are really open to looking at what our processes are. The Brown Act is a barrier. Let's figure out ways that we can make this work for ourselves. I had 2 dogs die.
Can you
One is old.
Can you wrap up real quick?
Yes, my other dog is now too old to use this. She was so that's how many years it took for people to get over their fears of poop and barking dogs. I don't want us to do that with affordable housing. I want us to learn and bring the resources that we can learn and learn together.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Council, Mayor. Thank you. My name is Bill Priestley. I'm a small business owner, and I live at 163 Port Circle here in Yountville at Bella Vista Park. A rent stabilization ordinance for the senior mobile home parks in Yountville would be a fair and practical step to help seniors stay in homes they own while protecting the park's owners' property rights. Please adopt the rent stabilization ordinance to help protect affordable senior housing now. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comment.
Hello, my name is Jim McCloy, and I live in Bella Vista Park, and I lived there 26 years. I love Yountville, and I support the RSO. I think it's something we need in our town, need in our parks, and I hope you go forward and help us with this. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody who'd like to come up, just come on up to the microphone.
Thank you for permitting me to come here and talk with you.
Can you speak in the mic? Just so we have our recording on. Thanks.
Thank you for permitting me to come here. My name is Tim Porteous. I live in Petaluma. I live at Youngstown Mobile Home Park. Here, we have been taken over. Our rents, I started at $735 5 years ago. I'm $1250. This is what happens. They sneak it in. In our city council, they got to a couple of them. They'll come. They're after this. They want $2,500 a month for every single space you got here. I'm pretty old. At 68, I can't get a job anymore. I'm busted up. In my youth, I worked hard. I made my money. I raised 2 boys. But now, I can't get a job anymore. I'm not physically capable of this. Between my rent and my mortgage, I am paying more every month than I get with social. So it's a horrendous thing. And they leave notes on our homes. We're going to close your park. We're going to make it an all-age park. Consistently threatening us. And their attitude is, well, if you can't afford it, get out. It's simple. Get out. We want people that can afford it. But I've been here for 7 years. I raised my boys in Petaluma, born in Petaluma. They're in their 30s now. I've been there. This is my town, my house. When they started this, I felt like they were attacking me. But I realized it wasn't just my castle, everyone's castle. And so I've become a member of the GSMOL. I'm a board member of a super chapter. That's how far. I've been to my city council more than 80 times. They have busted nukas, and they're doing things to change the rules and to stop the liars. I'm going to go broke if I don't get to raise I get a constitutional right, and they want 50, 60, 80% more. That's not a constitutional right. But they're after us. They're after the older folks. They think we can't defend ourselves. It's expensive. A lot of us we've used up a lot of our funds just to get to where we are. And we know we have more to go. But I'm here to please protect your seniors. You're in a position. You can do something. But these bad actors are going to come. Please stop them. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I am a local resident. I've been in Yountville for 18 years, happily living at what is now Bella Vista Park. And to start off, this is probably going to be personal for me. I wanted to thank you all and the town of Yountville for always taking care of us, always making the senior communities here feel appreciated, honored. It's a lovely thing. I'm here also to say that I ask you, please, seriously consider the rent stabilization ordinance. It is fair. I believe it doesn't hurt anybody, no matter what senior park you live in, but it protects us, just like you have always protected us. So I ask you, please consider it seriously, and we would very much appreciate that. Thank you. Oh, did I say who I was? Peggy Ahrens, and I live at Bella Vista Park on Burgundy Lane. Yay. Okay, thank you.
Anybody else like to come up and address the council?
Hello, I'm Marjean Marciniak. I live here in town. First of all, I have a question, and then I would like to express some observations and some concerns. What happened to the possibility of Yountville hosting a blood drive to help the Red Cross obtain needed life-saving pints? I think it was about this time last year when they came to the council and made a plea. And I haven't heard anything about it since.
Well,
So-
we've been working on it. We'll give you an update. Can you do that for us, Hillary?
Absolutely. So we have planned and coordinated with Red Cross to host a blood drive in early fall. I could look up the exact date, but we'll be advertising that. And the Red Cross will also be participating in Yountville Night Out, where we will promote the blood drive.
Yes. Okay. Thank you so much. Now for the concerns. Yountville is being bought out. Have you noticed? For many years, our town has been going through the gentrification process. And by Merriam's dictionary, it's the influx of middle-class or wealthy people who renovate homes and businesses, which often results in an increase in property values and a displacement of earlier, usually poorer residents. And now we have blatant NIMBYism, opposition to locating something considered undesirable in one's neighborhood, and in this case, the previously proposed Yountville Commons. We've had a long-time Yountville realtor stand right here and say if we proceeded with the Yountville Commons, it would lower our home values. And she guaranteed it. We've had several resident business owners address the council in angry terms. We've had non-resident business owner who seems to think he knows what is best for our town, consistently addressing the council in aggressive terms, pointing out things that have not been done the way he thinks they should have, sending multiple letters from his attorney's law firm requesting public documents and telling the council what he considers improper and what they should do instead. He has a group of followers, some very local, some not, that he invites to meetings, wine tastings, even courting the veterans with transportation to a free barbecue. Meanwhile, this group of followers, including the mean girls, is evidently grooming candidates to change the council at our next election in November, so that things that have been happening in the past, quote, won't happen in the future. Change is often a good thing. I try to embrace it. It's fairly clear what this group doesn't want, but I'm very uncertain on what they do want. We currently have a closure of our community center due to a buyout of the facility for a private event. Townspeople were given lots of notice about what to expect, including fencing off access to the community center, increased traffic, limited parking, increased pedestrian activity, temporary venue closures. Our Parks and Recreation Director announced that it was occurring during a break in classes, so it would not interfere with the Golden Ticket program. But the Yountville Library itself is closed today, along with two popular programs it sponsors, American Mahjong and Bridge tomorrow. As a paid participant program, Jazzercise, which normally takes place in the gym 7 days a week, has been relocated to the Veterans Park, Saturday, May 30th through Wednesday, June 3rd. This was not too much of an issue this weekend, but in the warmer or inclement weather, it could be. I asked Lisa Zena, who's been teaching Jazzercise at the Yountville Community Center for 10 years, about this. She said she really didn't mind it much, but the private parties were the problem. And we agreed there's probably been about 6 or more cancellations of Jazzercise this calendar year due to them. And now the current all-in liquidity event is billed on their website as being, and I quote, hosted in Yountville, California. Liquidity operates as a full town takeover, creating a closed-loop environment for serious capital conversations, trusted relationship building, and exceptional hospitality. With $10,000 attendance pass for 500 attendees, that's $5 million.
Can you wrap up pretty quick for us?
Yes, I can. Thank you. That's a lot of money. Samantha reported that 1,350 rooms were booked for the event, 65% of which were in Yountville. That's a lot of TOT revenue. It's also a lot of extra shifts for restaurant and hotel workers. These are good things. Our mayor announced that the all-in liquidity has already been booked next year, and she praised our new Deputy Director of Marketing and Economic Development, Beverly, for pulling this portfolio together. I checked the website, and there's a waiting list for next year. Where are we going with this? Increased town buyouts bring in more money for our town, more benefits for our residents. At what cost? How about our workforce? How about using some of this money for our popular Yountville fit
We're going to have to call
build the
time.
pool?
Thank you very
Thank
much for
you.
your comments.
Hello, Mayor, Council. I didn't come here to speak, but And I told you last week, I'm a little bit of a new kind of back and
Can
forth.
you speak into the mic for us? Thank
Sure.
you.
I'm Catherine Villa. I bought a house here about 10 years ago. I've been back and forth between Southern California and Yountville. And I was going to say something, but I actually would like to respond to the wonderful lady who just spoke. I see her concern. Let me give you mine. When I show pictures, I'm originally from Belgium, and when I show pictures and videos of this town, you are in a jewel of a town. Please understand where you are, what it is, and what makes Yountville so special. We talk a lot about diversity, but there's a difference between being diverse and becoming at some point homogenous, where everybody in every town should just become every single other town in the state or in the nation. And I'm not sure, it seems to me, now this is just my personal opinion, I think she was speaking about Gary. I think she's speaking about the people that make this town really a jewel. There is, unfortunately, it's true, there is a class difference that will always exist. You're not going to erase it. But I just hope this town, as I'm seeing things already starting to shift, that you understand what it represents. It is a very elite little bubble where normal people still live, but you are on the verge of shifting it into where everything should just be accepted here that is elsewhere. We were not concerned about just low-cost housing or people coming here. We're concerned about the bigger plan and what it involves, the expenditures, how it is thought out. So it is not a flippant disregard of those that are in need of it. I think, just as in the All-In guys, I've listened to their pods. They are extremely intelligent money people. And listen, that's where it ends and starts. I mean, if you don't have people that don't understand what makes your town so special, why people want to come here and spend $1,200 a night in a hotel, go to the best restaurants, put it on the map as the jewel in the heart of Napa Valley, you're really going to start getting them out, like what is happening in a lot of towns. I come from Europe, and I see what is happening in Europe. They're chasing the entrepreneurs away, and it is a really strange attitude to have. Look at how Gary actually loves this town. That event, I went there. The vets were there. I went bowling with the vets. We connected. His bigger objective is to keep this, I think, I'm now speaking for him, and I don't even really know him, to keep this down the jewel that it is. And it just comes with, we're not scared of changes. We're not changed, but this diversity and it is a good thing when your property values go up. I hate to say this, but there is nothing negative about it. I do not understand why this needs to be, looked at as something bad. All I'm saying is, I forgot what I was going to say before because it just really makes me sad that you're not walking around town here, or many people aren't walking around town, realizing why this town is special. That's it. Thank you.
Is there anybody else who would like to come up and address the council? Okay.
Hi, my name is Elaine Smet, and I would just like to address the low-cost housing issue and the possibility of partnering with the Veterans Home. Margie mentioned, I don't know, a few weeks back that you've been to Sacramento numerous times trying to address the issue of partnering with the Veterans Home. And I've since looked into that, not on what you've done, but just what the possibilities are. And it seems like perhaps you might be going the wrong route. We need to form a steering committee with people from the Veterans Home, business owners in town here, some residents, and all get together and come up with a solid plan, come up with a white paper, something that's solid, and then hire a representative from Sacramento, somebody like a political consultant, to guide us through the process. There's a real process here, and it is possible. It's not an impossibility. And it's something that I think should be addressed because it's important. It's the issue in front of us right now, and it's, I think, something they would really pay attention to. Yeah, that's all.
All right, thank you. I don't, anybody else want to come up? If not, I'm going to close the public comment. And yes, Vice Mayor, did you have a comment you'd like to make?
Yes, I just wanted to sort of react to the comment from Catherine Villa about recognizing the special qualities of Yountville. I think having lived here 45 years and watched the changes happen, I am on the council because I recognize how special it is. But I also realize that moving into the future, in order to protect it, it requires talking about that future and what we see as a proper combination of things happening in Yountville that will sustain it. So I appreciate that you would like us to know that Yountville is special. I think we all know it. Thank you.
All right, now I'm going to move on to, no, we've already closed public comment, sorry. Move on to the consent calendar. We have items A through I. Can I get a motion and a second, and then I'll see if we have any public comment for our consent calendar?
I move approval of Mayor, I move approval of consent calendar items A through L.
Aye. How about aye?
I'm sorry? H, L. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
A through I. Sorry, I need to go back to my eye, get my eyes checked.
And I'll second it. Thank you.
I have a motion and a second. Do we have any public comment on the consent calendar?
Mayor, I just, after public consent, I have just a quick comment.
Okay, sure.
I just wanted to, with our Station 12 and firefighters here, and I appreciate their comment earlier, but item I, not L, is approving a new agreement with the County of Napa and CAL FIRE for our fire agreement, and I just wanted to I know we all do, but to take an opportunity to thank you for your service to the community, for this town being very fortunate to have Station 12 right there and visible and available to not only the county but the veterans home and the town. And thank you for all you do. And I'm proud to be able to support the agreements that we set up with you to serve the community. So thank you.
Public comment?
I'm Ashley Tenscher. Good afternoon. I appreciate the opportunity to comment on consent calendar item E now because the town is reviewing the HACN's scope of service. That item is to adopt resolution number 264418 approving a 2-year agreement between the Housing Authority of the City of Napa and the Town of Yountville for affordable housing services covering the next 2 fiscal years. I understand that the town and HCD are more focused on creating new housing than preserving old affordable housing. However, as you consider this consent calendar item approval, please ask HACN to create an existing affordable housing inventory. We need a complete and accurate baseline. With this as a tool, the town and HACN would share a primary source of information. It would minimize the risk of transcription errors and promote accuracy of our housing element and its required annual progress reports. Additionally, this baseline inventory information is relevant to the public now more than ever. So starting with Exhibit B of the proposed professional housing services contract, please consider amending to, and I have 4 points. First, create 3 subtables or 3 tables, one for existing affordable housing inventory, one for loan servicing, and one for additional affordable housing units. Second, Are manager units considered affordable housing units by housing law? If not, reduce Arroyo Grande Villas from 25 affordable units to 24, assuming no compliance is required for the manager's unit. And are there any other manager's units, for instance, at Hopper Creek Apartments or other places in town? Third, edit the number of Oak Leaf Court, various addresses, ownership units. Current information suggests that the quantity is between 0 and 2, and most likely 0. Fourth, and this is my primary point today, expand the existing affordable housing inventory subtable. So each row is one affordable unit with the following fields specified for each, and there are 9. The address, the type, for instance, single-family residence. Number 3, the unit type, for example, studio. Number 4, the area, median income ranges, which will correlate to the RHNA, very low, low, moderate, and above moderate. Number 5, the assessor parcel number. Number 6, the affordable category. For example, rentals subsidized by state programs, rentals subsidized by local programs, or ownership subsidized by local programs. Number 7, for the state subsidized rentals, specify the funding program. For example, the LIHTC and or the HCD. For number 8, specify the affordability program. The examples would be inclusionary or development agreement. And lastly, number 9, the county recorder's affordability start and end dates. Fortunately, our planning director is receptive to working with HACN to pull this together. He'll provide valuable input on the how and the when. We have a timely opportunity, and I recommend asking HACN to establish this accurate and more detailed affordable housing inventory baseline. Thank you.
Thank you. Aaron, did you want to make any comments?
Sure. I did meet with Mr. and Mrs. Tencher last Thursday afternoon, where they expressed an interest in developing this baseline. I said I would work with the Housing Authority to develop it. So that is something that we'll work on moving forward.
All right. Thanks for that update.
I know this is on consent, but we do have a representative here from HACN. Could we get a short report from him, just a comment, or if it's on consent?
Gary, should we open up public comment on this again?
You certainly can, to get a comment from the contractor on the background.
Okay, on this item. Okay.
I'd like to, sure.
All right, yes.
Thank you, Council. So Jonathan Sakamoto, Housing Authority. Happy to put that timeline together to flesh out all the details and get that all put together. We track most of this anyway, but to put it in front of the council for part of the attachment of the services, we can do that, get that done.
All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Yeah. 1 second, we have a question.
I'm really interested in this item as well, partly because we need real-time data, and I don't know how often you examine. If it's only once a year, it's probably not good enough. If there's turnover in a unit, we probably need to know that as well and in a timely fashion. So everybody's all in on dashboards these days, but if that's a way to make that happen so that it's relevant and current, that would be really helpful too.
We'll work with staff to explore any options you guys need.
All right.
Happy to.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. We've taken public comment. All in favor of approving consent calendar, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstain? That passes unanimously. On to item guest presentation. Our presentation today is from the Yountville Chamber of Commerce. This is their annual update. So.
Thank you so much. Hello, Council and Town Leadership. I am Natalie Layton, President and CEO of the Yountville Chamber of Commerce, here, as the Mayor said, to provide an annual presentation. I do want to give a caveat that because the Chamber's fiscal year hasn't wrapped up yet, the numbers that you will see in this presentation will be representative of the fiscal year thus far up until April 30, so July 1 till April 30. This is what we'll be talking about, a general overview of the Chamber, our membership, our programming, give you an update on the Yountville Welcome Center, the numbers that we're seeing into the Welcome Center, then talk a little bit about destination marketing, and then share what we're looking forward to and some current initiatives that the Chamber is working on that we will carry into the next fiscal year and for years to come. So this is who we are. I'm sure probably everyone in this room has heard me say it, but the Yountville Chamber wears two hats. We are a traditional chamber of commerce in every sense of the word. We do in-house marketing, meaning our team markets on behalf of our business members. We also host networking opportunities, economic, business, work, and workforce development work and programming. We do advocacy on behalf of our members, and then community and member support. And then the other hat that we wear is the destination marketing organization for Yountville as a destination. That is an agreement with the town that we've had for 33 years, which is great, and we're excited to be continuing it. Through our destination marketing hat, if you will, we market Yountville through our digital advertising, social media marketing, influencer and journalist marketing, yountville.com, which is kind of our home on the internet, our visitor guides and maps, program support, and the Welcome Center. This is an overview of the teams and our leaderships. We have a professional staff of 3. It's myself being the president and CEO. Andrea Scarpa-May is our director of programming, and Frederic Dukas is our newest team member, our communications and engagement coordinator. The Chamber is guided by a volunteer board of directors. We have 10 board of director members and then 3 board advisors, including a representative for the town of Yountville, Beverly Wilmore. I would also be remiss if I didn't mention on this slide in particular, when I talk about the team, our amazing volunteers. We as an organization could not do the work that we do without the volunteers, most of whom come from Yountville and live in Yountville. Many of whom are actually here today, so thank you all. There we go, there's some waves. But our volunteers not only keep the Welcome Center open 7 days a week, but they support us on our initiatives. They obviously attend and support our events. And we also work with 8 ambassadors who are volunteers as well, most of whom live here in Yountville, love the businesses, and they help with year-round retention of our members. This is our annual strategic plan. I won't read through all of this, but I put it on here because we actually zhuzhed it up this year, and it's in one space. I'm very proud of this document, but we are, much like the town, on a 3-year strategic plan, and so we're entering our 3rd year, which we're very excited about. This document doesn't change much from year to year. We meet annually with our board of directors to make sure that our goals are still what we want them to be, that we're using the right strategies in order to achieve those goals, and then of course that they're in line with not only our mission but the mission of the town and of our businesses. Just kind of a snapshot of the Yountville Chamber of Commerce membership. We have over 340 businesses and nonprofits within our membership. Given the makeup of the Napa Valley, it's no surprise that we do have quite a few wineries, tasting rooms, vineyards in our membership, but we do represent over 10 different industries within the Napa Valley, anywhere from local nonprofits, solo entrepreneurs, law offices, marketing companies, you name it, we represent it, which I think speaks to the value that businesses find within the Yountville Chamber and specifically within ties to Yountville. We also offer, which is unique to us, and I'm not being hyperbolic when I say it's an extremely popular program. We have our associate member program that is capped at 150 members, but we have an ongoing, I almost said wish list, kind of a waiting list for that program. We're very proud of it, and it's, again, unique to the Yountville Chamber, and it speaks to the Yountville community. I have never been in another community in my entire career within the Chamber of Commerce industry where they've had anything like this program. It's wonderful, and it brings us joy, and I know it brings the residents joy as well. So we're very proud of that program and continuing it. This is kind of a snapshot of the programming that the Chamber facilitates on an annual basis. When it comes to annual events, we really only have kind of 2 flagship events that we facilitate. A lot of the other annual events that we support are put on by the amazing Town of Yountville staff, led by, of course, Sam Holland, Director of our Parks and Rec Director. As far as annual events go, though, we did recently have a very successful Taste of Yountville event, which we do in partnership with Shandon, and we bring in different wine partners who are located here in Yountville to pour for the day. Again, it's at Shandon. It's a beautiful day. We had about 160 attendees at that. And then also our annual Celebrity Vets Luncheon that we do in partnership with the Veterans Home. We tap some local celebrity chefs, if you will, to come and support that event, and we do it around Veterans Day every November, and it's a wonderful event. For business and professional development, the image that you see there is from one of our webinars. We're currently in the tail end of our annual webinar series. So far, we've done not only a webinar on labor laws in partnership with our member DPNF, but also one on social media best practices, then how businesses can stay relevant on social media and online, financial best practices, and then we have one coming up specific to the wine industry to focus on wine data and how wineries can utilize data strategically. The Yountville Visitor Guide and Map, I'm sure you all have seen them. If you haven't, come by the Welcome Center, or I know they store them here as well in Town Hall, but we produce a annual visitor guide and map. We also update them biannually to make sure that any changes amongst the footprint of the town or amongst the businesses, as in change of names or closures of business, we again update that biannually to make sure that that is all accurate. We do also on the visitor guide and map, I should mention, we have a in-room guide that we give to our local TID partners for their hotel rooms and guests. Lastly on this slide, Yountville Chamber networking mixers. We are extremely lucky to have very well-attended networking mixers. We host them between 8 to 10 times a year and have approximately 100 to 200 people, which is also just unheard of. Again, in my chamber career, I've never seen this amount of success on networking mixers. In addition to networking mixers, we have quarterly happy hours for our associate members so they can hang out and have a good time at our member businesses and also spend time with other residents. Now, the Yountville Welcome Center. So, like I said, we are staffed by 36 volunteers who help run the Yountville Welcome Center. They're the front facing of the Welcome Center. We, of course, manage and operate it, the chamber team operating out of the back of the Welcome Center. But so far this year, or I should say between July 2025 and April 2026, we've seen 9,431 visitors come in, the most being, as you can see, in July. No surprise there. It's always a busy time in summer. I know this is a very small number, but I wanted to include it anyway. That is up 3% from 2025. A win is a win. So I wanted to include that. Again, it's a small number, but as we've heard time and time again, you know, we are facing tourism challenges, not only as a region, but as a state. And so it was really reassuring as a destination marketing organization to see that our numbers are going up in our brick and mortar. Now, this is a snapshot of the events that the chamber team supports. This year, we supported events in a variety of ways, primarily, I will say, marketing, but of course, any planning or execution staffing needs that the town had. The chamber was always here to help ourselves, or again, our handy volunteers would step in and volunteer their time. Before I get into the destination marketing portion of it, which is the next few slides in the tail end of the report, I did also just want to highlight that not only does the chamber support the town with event promotion, with destination marketing promotion, but we do work really closely with town leadership and town staff on a variety of initiatives year-round, and that's incredibly important to our partnership and to our organization and our leadership. I know that Bev and I have kind of started this joke where we have a standing meeting every week, but if we don't talk to each other 5 days out of the week, we get a little antsy. So I, of course, meet with the Economic Development and Marketing Deputy the director quite often. Prior to his departure, I was meeting with the town manager at least 2 to 3 times a month. He never got rid of me. I had the pleasure of meeting with Ken last week, and then of course with the Parks and Rec team as needed, and of course with council members as schedules allow. But I wanted to take this moment to give a particular shout out to both the mayor and vice mayor for meeting with myself and town leadership, chamber leadership for your ad hoc committee to talk about business relations, business initiatives, to talk about the chamber and how we can be better partners. I just truly appreciate the time that you both spent with us and really going over all of our goals and how we can work together to achieve them. So thank you so much for that. Now into the destination marketing work. I'm shamelessly using these fall photos, even though it's not fall, because they're some of my favorite photos that we have. But our social media is a huge portion of our destination marketing. It is incredibly prevalent to today's marketing world. We continue to see strong growth across most of our channels. Both our TikTok and Instagram grew significantly this year, which was great to see. We have over 105 followers across all of our platforms, and we've seen over 14 million impressions since July 2025, as well as over 200,000 engagements. And engagement is a new term because marketing people are always coming up with new terms, but when it comes to Meta, what engagements mean are likes, comments, shares, and saves. Now, Yountville.com is kind of our home on the internet, as I believe I said earlier. This is where any marketing dollars that we spend in order to drive people to a website, we drive them to Yountville.com. The chamber also has an online presence, but it is a tiny fraction of the amount of sessions that we see on Yountville.com just because we don't spend money marketing it. So as you can see, we had over 200,000 sessions since July, which is great, and that is through all of our different efforts, as well as just some people organically looking for Yountville and finding us at the top of their Google page. Public relations, we work with Fuller & Sander Public Relations out of the Napa Valley. They help us with press releases, with press spotlights. They handle our journalist visits. So far this year, they have coordinated 15 different journalist visits here in town and have gotten 2 VideoWorks spotlights on local television stations. One that actually just happened with KGO Localish. It was a great feature on dogs in town, on the walkability of town, on the businesses in town, and of course on the art in town. And if you didn't record it, I have the link, so let me know. I'd be glad to share it. It's so cute, and the dogs are adorable. But through our efforts with Fuller & Sanders, we have seen over 400 million impressions generated for all of our spotlights and all of the different features and different pieces of media that we've been included in. Now, for digital advertising, we run year-round a hyper-local campaign. We get huge bang for our buck, I will say. We invest $200 a month, and we have seen over 2 million impressions since July 25 and over 23,000 clicks. That is done in partnership with WSI, Next Gen Marketing, who oversees our websites. And then the Yountville brand campaign we do in partnership with the Napa Valley TID, Yountville, our local TID. That is the largest brand campaign that we oversee. It's in our 9th year, and some of the images to the right are from this year's campaign. And since we launched, we've seen over 15 million impressions and over 132,000 clicks. Now, looking ahead, these are some initiatives that we're currently working on or are in the pipeline, so to speak. SIP Yountville is what we are referring to the entertainment zone as. We got feedback from both our social media company and our marketing company that we should create something or a tagline that's a little bit more palatable. One of the feedback is that the entertainment zone sounded like an arcade, and we, while the entertainment zone is fun, we don't want to be promoting an arcade, so we are referring to it as SIP Yountville, and working on initiatives in order to get more and more businesses in town on board with that program. We just had a notification go out to businesses today explaining everything about it, how they can get involved, how they can utilize it, and we are promoting it online on social media as well, and that's been getting really great traction. And we also I will give a shout out to Hand handwritten wines. That's created a menu specifically for the entertainment zone. They've called it Sip Yountville. So now guests can just walk into Handwritten, look at the menu, grab a glass, and go. Another project that we are working on is the wayfinding project. I know that is a priority of the towns, and I'm working closely with town staff in order to provide any kind of business support or outreach that they may need. Expanded retail support, this is something that we spoke about, both the mayor and vice mayor in our ad hoc committee. This is an ongoing effort. Both Bev and I have conversations about it regularly, as does town leadership, and how we can support, whether it be kind of matchmaking with potential vendors or helping support potential pop-ups, shopping experiences that we've seen really successfully done throughout town over the years. The Yountville portfolio, I won't belabor this point. I know we've already talked about it, but as we speak, we know that All In Liquidity is in town, and the Chamber looks forward to working closely with the town in order to help bring large groups to town and up that TOT and the sales tax and all the good stuff that comes with larger groups. And expanded winery partnerships, this is an ongoing conversation in order to work with different winery partners throughout the valley and have them send their guests back down to Yountville. And last but not least, I'll end on an exciting note. We are going to be extending our hours of the Welcome Center. We will now be open 7 days a week, 10 to 4 p.m. Instead of 10 to 3 on the weekends. So we're excited to help with the extra hour each day in order to get more visitors to where they want to go and give them all the fun recommendations that our volunteers are so great at. And with that, I just want to say thank you so much for this first year of leadership in this role has been amazing and truly my absolute dream job. So thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions or hand it back over to you, Madam Mayor.
Yes, Councilmember McKee.
Yeah, thanks for the report, Natalie. You guys have done an amazing job in your absence and with a team member down and the new one. You've brought it all together really well. Regarding the SIP zone, as you're calling it, not the zip zone, but I have heard confusion from some of our winery partners, and then you kind of answered it. So on a regular evening in Yountville, people could go into one of our tasting rooms, get a glass of wine, and take that to go, right?
Yes. Yeah.
That was my understanding, and then there was some confusion on whether it was just for special events and during the times like when we had Art Sip and Stroll and Halloween, for example. So it's all the time under good control.
Yes, yeah. 10 to 10, 365 is what the town has set up. And I appreciate that. I did actually send an email today specifically about the times and the dates because we've received feedback as well, some confusion. I know there's other municipalities that only operate it during certain events or certain days, so I imagine that's where the confusion stems.
Okay, great, thank you. And then while the sheriff's here, have we seen any problems with the open containers? Woo-hoo. Negative. Good job, Yountville. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Natalie? Yes, Councilmember Knight.
Thank you, Ms. Layden, for your report. And it does seem like you're close to an anniversary time here, so we appreciate all the work that you do for the community and for this kind of unique chamber you have that blends so many residents that are involved as well as working with the businesses. So thank you. And I think the chamber's always been very successful in the town, and as a resident here for years, and even having served on the Yountville Town Council as back as the late 90s. And we heard some of those comments today that there's always been kind of an interesting tension between this balancing welcoming visitors and protecting our small town character. Sure. And the chamber has always done a very good job of that. But it exists, and we do our best to work through that. But I think we also have to recognize that we're in a unique period that for years and years and years, Yountville had the hotels in town here, and there was little to no hotels in the city of Napa, and this marketplace all over the valley and the Napa has changed our business climate. And so it really was, I think for a few years, the council was talking about the need for economic development planning and talked to the chamber about that. And we were actually very fortunate with our former town manager that he stepped up and said, it's time now that we have an economic development director, and we've been very fortunate for the work that Ms. Wilmore has done, and with all the work that the Chamber has done with her to promote visitors. So thank you for your work. I know this interesting tension always continues, but we benefit for all the dollars we receive in TOT and sales tax, and so thank you for your work.
Absolutely. Thank you, Councilmember. Appreciate that.
Any other questions? Yes, Councilmember Tripp.
I wanted to thank Natalie for her good work at the Chamber, and in particular, though, I wanted to thank the volunteers. It's pretty amazing that you can get more or less 42 hours a week of volunteers, and I used to work for a couple of years on alternate Sundays. And I don't know if I would have stayed till 4, but 3 o'clock was okay. But it was a really good experience because you have such a group of really civic-minded people. And then I would see the same volunteers at the Chamber at volunteering for almost everything else in Yountville. So it's kind of a glue that holds the town together, in my opinion. And the associate member program was also a great introduction for me. And at the time, this target was 100 members, and now you have 150, and I think maybe a waiting list. So that's pretty remarkable. And what I learned from being a volunteer and talking to a lot of visitors, it was actually quite interesting, the different types of visitors we have. But what I took away is Yountville really appreciates its visitors by and large. And in fact, some of the volunteers, I've seen them on the street, will stop and ask people just out of the blue who look lost, can I help you? Do I need something? And then even people who aren't volunteers will ask, other residents. So that's one thing I really, really appreciate about Yountville. There is a tension, no doubt, because we all live here. I live only a block and a half off of Washington Street, my house. So, when liquidity arrives, it's hard for anybody to park who comes to visit me, so I just have to leave room in my driveway. But by and large, we really like our visitors. And I think that the town, that's to be applauded, although everything, as Councilmember Knight said, everything has to be balanced. So I totally get that. And so I just really wanted to compliment you. And I did want to say, somebody already mentioned this, I went on the Liquidity website and saw their kind of double entendre about the takeover of Yountville, and my thought was, well, I hope we got a good price in the takeover because it was quite funny. But by and large, it seems like a really good thing for our town. So anyway, thank you for your hard work and for being the glue of Yountville.
Thank you so much.
And I just, okay, thank you. I just wanted to also comment from an economic point of view that many years ago, our our property taxes could easily cover our police and fire contracts, and now they can no longer do that. So we are very dependent on our TOT and our sales tax to run this town. The vast majority of cities, 80% of their expenses their revenue comes from property tax. Ours is less than 20%. So it's a total different financial dynamic that we use here, which is sales tax and TOT to really operate this town. So it's something that sometimes it's not obvious to people how that works, but that's life in Yountville, and we really appreciate having a Beverly here to help us with that, and as well as the Chamber to bring those funds in to keep all the wheels kind of churning. So, yeah.
Can I say one more thing?
Yes.
Just when people talk about tourism being down in the area, in the state, it is a fact from Visit Napa Valley and meetings that we've had with the Tourism Improvement District.
Napa and Sonoma County are down to Monterey and San Luis Obispo and the other areas. So, and it's just a little, but it's the first time in over a decade that we've seen a dip. So it is important that we work together and find that balance in the community to have the midweek business, especially when the restaurants would be closed. So this is like they're having a dine around tonight with restaurants that would typically be closed. So there are some inconveniences that we've, I think our Parks and Rec have skillfully worked around. And I will say, as we've looked at, as a TID board, at proposals for a collective, we had two companies come in, and one was very snappy, but their tagline was like, oh, just think we can tell groups they can take over the town. And it was like, ah. So they did not get selected because they didn't have the sensitivity that this town needs and deserves. So the leaders that support the business development and the tourism that drives this town are very sensitive. So it just is going to be a work of art that we all work on and give and take together. So, and that $10,000 that they paid, that didn't include rooms. That didn't include rooms. So, I mean, they're paying a lot to be in our very special town. Yeah.
Thank you. So now let's move on to our single public hearing tonight. We are going to introduce and waive the reading of an ordinance repealing ordinance number 26539, which repeals and replaces various sections of our municipal code. And I'm going to let, I see Aaron has moved up to the staff seat. I'm going to let Aaron take this over.
Thank you, Mayor.
Just more information. Thank you.
Yeah, just a very brief report. So on February 3rd, 2026, the Town Council adopted ordinance number 26-539, which amended the zoning ordinance and zoning map related to the Yountville Commons site. Then on March 4th, 2026, a petition for a referendum against that ordinance was filed with the town clerk. On March 13th, 2026, the Registrar of Voters for Napa County certified that referendum petition contained a sufficient number of valid signatures to qualify for consideration by the Town Council pursuant to the California Code of Elections. Following certification of the referendum petition, the Elections Code requires the Town Council to do one of two things, one of which is repeal that ordinance in its entirety, or two, submit that ordinance to the voters at either the next regular municipal election or a special election called for that purpose. At the April 7th, 2026 Town Council meeting, the Town Council unanimously directed staff to prepare an ordinance repealing ordinance number 26-539 in its entirety. On May 12th, 2026, the ZDRB unanimously approved resolution number 26-032, recommending the Town Council adopt ordinance number 26-540, repealing ordinance number 26-539. And during the ZDRB meeting, board comments centered around continuing to move forward while directly addressing issues and concern, building trust, and finding solutions. With that, staff recommends that the council introduce and waive first reading of ordinance number 26-540, repealing ordinance number 26-539. And staff would be happy to answer any questions you may have at this time.
All right, thank you. Does council have any questions of staff on this item? Seeing none, I'm going to open the public hearing on this item, and if anybody would like to come up and address the council, this is the time to do that. See nobody who wants to come and address this item, I will go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it back to council for discussion and a possible motion and a second. Any discussion? Yes. Vice Mayor.
Well, I don't know if I have discussion, but I do.
Comments are good too.
Want to make a comment. I am going to vote for the repeal of this zoning ordinance for the Commons property. It's not my favorite decision, but I feel like not because I felt pressure from a vocal minority, But because we were not ready to proceed with the project in February, and we're not ready to proceed now, we've not had the important discussions that will guide decisions on the workforce housing portion of the project, not because we wanted to have those discussions in private, because we have done everything in open noticed meetings, but because we have been diverted from those discussions. It's clear that there needs to be introductory and background informational items on our upcoming agendas to explain and inform the public about this project and the broader question of housing in our town. Since we were never going to rush on this project, it will not be detrimental to repeal the zoning at this time. But we must continue discussing and planning for the future of this town. We may differ in our opinions about the housing and the future, but we must be able to review facts, discuss options, and come to decisions based on a shared understanding. I hope people can remain open and flexible and hold the mission of doing what is best for the community rather than what feeds possible grievance, personal agendas, or other reasons. I call on people to leave previous bad behavior behind and move forward in the coming months with productive discussion. Planning is a dynamic process. Things change along the way, and flexibility is required to come to the best decision that is the reflection of the majority sentiment. That is the democratic process and what has sustained this town over time. This community has changed, but I hope that coming together as a community has not changed.
Any other comments? Or yes, Councilmember Tripp.
This follows up on what Councilmember Reeves said, and it is a suggestion. I am also planning to vote for the repeal of the zoning ordinance because I do think it's prudent, and but what I want to speak to, and I've had a lot of in-depth conversations with people who are both supportive of what happened with the referendum and those who have significant reservations. But what I would like to say and ask is that the council knows this, but maybe not everybody in the audience. An issue can't be really discussed unless it is on the agenda. That's the Brown Act. And the process to put it on the agenda is that 2 council members need to agree to put it on the agenda. And this is a relatively quiet period this summer, and I like to suggest it might be a good time to put on the agenda a public discussion of next steps. And I say that with no particular idea of the exact next steps, but a couple members of the public have suggested to me that it might be a really good time to lay some groundwork on in preparation for more definitive action. So before we have necessarily a specific proposal on the agenda, so to speak, my point in having a discussion about possible next steps would be that one of the things we might consider is steps that would be more part of a community workshops, focusing on what issues that the community agrees upon. I really, and I say this sincerely, even though I think some of the council members may feel, and they have spoken already, one of them about bad behavior. I personally didn't see any bad behavior. I saw people advocating. I saw people upset. surprised, but I did not see any bad behavior. So I don't want to discuss the past particularly, but I did not see any bad behavior, and I just want to emphasize that. But anyway, going forward, what I'd like to see is I think the community agrees on way more than we disagree on. And mostly the most important things that I can say unequivocally is everyone here agrees they want the best for Yountville. And I've talked to people on both sides of the discussion who've lived here for many, many years, between 20 and 40 years. So the kind of fact is, if you haven't lived here, and I'm starting my 8th year, so I'm still a newbie, but in Yountville, until you've been here at least 20 years, your voice probably is not as loud. But that's okay. We agree on more than we disagree. I would like to see that we get on the agenda a time to talk about what next steps might be, with a focus on really getting the community together to talk about what our priorities are. We're not going to please everybody, that's for sure. But the idea being people focus a little bit on what are their biggest priorities, the things that they feel the town absolutely has to address. So in closing, my main thing I would like to say is that I would ask the council whether we could put on the agenda sooner rather than later a discussion of the next steps and what might be appropriate, and hear from the public what they think might be appropriate, including looking at some of the basic premises and assumptions of our project. Maybe we need to think about, and this was suggested by a very knowledgeable person, that we're not necessarily talking about affordable or workforce housing, but something more like attainable housing that people can basically afford to pay for on a reasonable income. So those would be the kind of premises. Where are we headed? So I really hope we'll have that discussion. And then I just want to say in response, and then I will leave the past, but this does really bother me, in part because I was called out personally by the representative, Brendan Kelly, in a letter to the editor of the Napa Register. And I can't find the quote here, but he, contrary to what, and he had led many of the discussions about the commons. He was, and I asked the town manager, authorized to speak as kind of the representative of the project. And in his letter to the editor, he said basically the project had been voted on, the units had been voted on, the financing was set. So I say that not to point out that one person is true and one person isn't true, but the fact that the key representative of the project felt this was all a done deal, and then he went on to say that it was done in public. And I'm not suggesting there was anything nefarious going on, but we as a council, unless I missed a lot, did not have public discussions on a lot of those issues. They were probably, as Council Member Reeves said, perhaps going to happen, but they hadn't happened, and we certainly hadn't voted on all that. So that kind of confusion kind of shows a little bit about how hard it was to tell exactly when decisions were going to be made, when one of the chief representatives of the project writes a letter and says those decisions were made, the project is ready to go. And they were not just made, but voted on. And I think, and I'm sure our very good town council can correct me, but we basically had two votes. One was at the very beginning, and then one was on the referendum. And I don't think, not the referendum, but on the amendment of the general plan, the zoning, and some of the details. But that didn't really talk about units, unit mix, unit size, how we would finance it. We had yet to vote on all that. So I only point this out because I think it does show some of the lack of cohesion on how the project was represented. That we have some people who think, and I have also heard the mayor say, we had not voted on unit size, none of that had been decided. I think she said that at one of the last meetings. So anyway, I'm going to leave the past, but the idea that half the project team thought it was a done deal, or maybe all the project team, and the council hadn't really voted on much of this or really felt they got to these issues, that kind of shows you a little bit about how the process might have been better defined. But anyway, my main point is I would like to put out there that we have a public discussion on what possible next steps are. We do it this summer. We have momentum. We have a lot of people who are interested, and now would be a good time, a relative quiet time. I can't see much harm in really pushing forward, at least on some sort of community workshops and discussions on what are our assumptions, what are our priorities, where do we want to go before we get into a specific project. Because I personally very much support, whether we call it attainable housing, affordable housing, workforce housing. I have volunteered in this area with some relatively thankless jobs, listening to tenant-landlord mediations, interpreting rent control when I was on the rent control board for 2 years in Oakland. I am not a NIMBY. I just wanted a good project that, like everybody here in Yountville, I'm no different than anybody else sitting up here on that score. It's just how to go about it and what our goals are. So I would ask if anyone else would consider putting that on the agenda.
So I'd like to comment on that. I don't. First, I am going to also support the repeal of this ordinance. I'm not in favor of next steps because I think we've got a whole lot of questions that have come from the community that we need to address. Until we really lay out what those questions are and what the answers are and get public input into their different opinions about those, we will not have a framework to go forward with next steps. And I know I've had these conversations with our interim town manager so far. Maybe some other council members have too, and they can comment as well. But, there's a lot of information. People, for example, have been asking about the finances, all the way from what we spent so far on the property, what we spent on improvements, going the whole gamut to we've had financial experts come in and tell us what the revenue streams we have are and how much, borrowing we can even do. So I think we need to go through things like that. That could be done in a regular council meeting, perhaps in a workshop style. There's been a lot of questions about being our own developer, but versus hiring, a housing developer. There's a lot of different ways you can go about that, and a lot of pluses and minuses to each one. I think that needs to be discussed. We need to bring experts in, such as, not limited to necessarily Burbank Housing, but, groups that actually do development with developers for affordable workforce housing projects, so that we all have a clear understanding about what that looks like, what might actually be best. So I think there's a series of meetings that we could have to have those types of discussions as a community, and all kind of learn what is what this whole what's the framework look like that will address all of these. And then we might have an opportunity, once we lay that kind of groundwork, to talk about next steps. So that would be, my proposal. So those are my comments. Councilmember McKee.
Thank you. So my thoughts on the repeal of the ordinance and the entire referendum experience are this. We were presented the project information together, the council and the public, on February 17th. And since that date, this council has never, ever had the opportunity to discuss any aspect of the project up here at the dais. I never say it right. Not once. So we never got to break down the project components and associated concerns one by one, so we could address them with the goal of listening to the residents and making refinements and alterations. As a body, we never got to work amongst ourselves to direct staff to get more information, to incorporate ideas we collectively came up with or heard, and ideas that surely could have worked towards a solution. Instead, we were met quickly with the request to slow down and then the request to hurry up to get info. And then on the heels of that, like a week later, came the circulated referendum. So as a council, we never examine aspects of the project, phased or in entirety. So concerns remained unaddressed. And because of that, there's been a feeling that this council has not been listening. But I ask, how could we have shown you that we were listening when this project has not been on our agendas, so we couldn't work on anything together? So the benefit I see from the referendum, once we vote and overturn zoning, is now the public, those who've been around for the long haul and those who have entered conversations maybe just this last year will have the opportunity to hear the council as future agendas include portions of the housing concept in the coming months. To be specific, concerns expressed about unit size and mix, parking, development, possible development, costs, financing, employee surveys, employee feedback, and more are all items that need to be discussed and voted on publicly before moving forward with the first phase. And they can now come before us one at a time and one by one and over time. So now finally this council will have the opportunity to weigh in beyond the 30,000-foot hypothetical view we all peaked at in February. Going forward, council members will have the benefit of discussing aspects of the project in detail and will get to hear the public on issues as well, so we can talk and work together. And we will then finally be able to show we are listening. Plus, amongst the five of us, I think we'll come to more clear understanding of what's possible and why we were presented with many, many options. No doubt we'll even be asking for more options. So I can't speak for my fellow council members, but I feel confident that we've all had poignant questions and concerns as we learn more about the project. But we haven't all worked through them democratically as the process dictates. To discuss our concerns here in this room before this public in order to improve the project. Now we'll get the chance to do that, and I'm confident that the housing that one day is proposed on this school site and one day will be built will be better for it. We'll work together as one community to define and design housing for those who work in our town and make it the special place it is for visitors and residents alike. And together we'll work to satisfy the mandate voted on by the majority of the residents in 2018. Because between that 2018 vote and the mandates by the state, Yountville is responsible for building housing. So as I see it, the repeal of Ordinance 26-539 is giving us a gift. It's a gift of time to circle back, to work together as a community and as a body to get this project right. I'm voting to repeal today to embrace this extra time and, most importantly, all the voices that come forward in the future as items are agendized and discussed one at a time. I openly welcome concerns and suggestions for ideas and improvements, and that's how Yountville will move forward together.
All right, thank you. Yes, Eric, Councilmember Knight.
Thank you, Mayor. I will support Resolution 26-540, which repeals some specific sections of the municipal code, because we cannot have a thoughtful and collaborative conversation about Yountville's workforce housing needs and the future of the Yountville Commons by placing a ballot measure on the November ballot. I know that we can all work together better, and that that will only happen when we find common ground and shared principles. I'm looking forward to having a productive discussion, conversations, sharing ideas, and all listening better, so that we can find out and discuss really what are the community benefits for Yountville with multiple uses on the commons. So I'm ready to move this resolution forward.
Okay. Yes, Vice Mayor.
I just wanted to confirm that I would be in favor of clarifying first as the mayor was talking about doing some educational sessions in our normal agenda so that we can work through information that we already have that we haven't spoken about. There is a wealth of information about this particular project. It doesn't mean that those discussions will be limited only to this project, but bring in all the concepts that this project was trying to address. And I think that those are important things to go through, find out why things worked the way we thought they were going to work, and just take a look at the data and really answer questions that have kind of generated misunderstanding. And I think unless we get that baseline, everybody understands the information, everybody looks at the numbers, and this number relates to that number, but not this number. Unless we have that conversation, everybody is not on the same page. So doing some educational first and then talking about people's ideas after you have a concept of what is required of us, how it might be financed, what we've already done, and what it could be, and then talk about where we want to go from here.
So does staff have direction on what we'd like to see coming forward? If not, I can sum it up for you.
Please, yeah, I think we do. What I'm hearing from council is an interest in a series of discussions with the community at a council meeting, regularly scheduled council meeting, to review some of the questions and concerns that have come up about the project, including expenditures to date. What are the town's housing obligations? What is our ability to meet those obligations? What are the housing needs? What do the employees of this community, need for housing, are interested in for housing? And then, from there, possibly looking at, different ways, maybe honing in on what are the needs, and then maybe talking to some affordable housing developers about the various options available to the town, whether it be partnering, I'm going a little off ahead of council, maybe partnering with the town to build something, various financing options, what's the right mix of units, what's the right number to start with. So I think that's what I'm generally hearing from council, and staff can be prepared to hold, start holding those meetings soon and to begin the conversations.
Okay, thank you.
May I speak, Mayor?
Yes.
I was making a somewhat different. I agree with everything you said, Mr. McNabb. But before we move to education of residents of how financing might work and pro formas and whatnot, I was suggesting we move backwards a little bit to actually look at some of the assumptions, some of the desires of the town, because that's a very neutral topic, which I think could be helpful at this juncture. Now, that's a little different than us educating people, which is also a really good objective. But I do think it might be worth revisiting some of our basic goals and assumptions about the project, what we want out of it as a town and what we don't want. So that was what I was suggesting. And then I just want to make one final comment. I'm delighted that we're going to go back and look at some of the key things that we heard: financing, size of units, issues such as that. So I'm delighted. But I do just want to remind, and I was also delighted personally, that it could be perceived as a kind of a gift, which is what one of the other council members said, that the project was halted, basically. But I just want to remind people, because I actually spent a lot of time going back and listening to meetings and looking at materials. We were scheduled, and this is all in writing, coming out of the town, for a vote in March and April to award the construction contract for this project. And the construction contract was premised on contractors coming and looking at plans for specific buildings. So the train was moving really quickly. And as I've also heard, the town manager at the time told me we would not award a construction contract unless we knew how to pay for it. So I think Finance Junction was right up there in March and April. So yes, we met February 17th, but I also just want to point out that workshop, I tried to answer some questions, ask some questions at the end. I was very grateful for so many people who showed up, but there was no opportunity to ask any questions of the economic representatives. So I guess I go back over all this one more time to say it is really important we do have these sessions and we do take our time, because in my experience as a council, if we got into March or April with a finance proposal, it's really hard to go back and start revisiting assumptions. So I just think it's a really good time, not just to educate and us to explain why we're doing what we were doing, but rather to listen to what the community wants. Because whether we agree or disagree with the referendum and the over 200 people who signed it, whether we think they understood all the nuances or not, it certainly was 200 people who had some serious reservations about the project, or they wouldn't have signed the referendum. So I think that's worth a chance to revisit some of our assumptions. So I'm not getting a sense that anyone else is wanting to do that, but I just wanted to clarify, although I totally agree with everything else Mr. McNabb said.
Okay, so with that, I'm going to call
Mayor, I'm ready
for
to
the
make
vote.
a motion.
Yes.
I'm ready to make
Okay,
a
I'll
motion.
call for the vote. Yes, please do.
Thank you. I move introduction and waive the first reading of ordinance number 266-540, repealing ordinance number 26-539.
I'll second.
Okay, can we get a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember McKee?
Yes.
Councilmember Tripp?
Yes.
Councilmember Knight?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Reeves?
Yes.
Mayor Mueller?
Yes. Thank you, everybody. Now we're moving on to administrative item, which is to, we are moving on to the administrative regular item to receive and discuss presentations from two firms regarding the town manager recruitment services.
Are you going to do public comment on this item, or did we do it already?
did it.
Oh,
We
I'm
did it
sorry.
already.
Okay,
I
I'm
opened
sorry.
and closed the public hearing, correct?
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mayor and council members. For this final agenda item this evening, you will recall that at the last meeting, there were 6 proposals from recruitment firms. The council reviewed 6 of them and directed staff to invite 2 of them to come back to give a presentation for you to have further discussion and then to make a decision about awarding a contract to one of them. We have both firms here this evening. The first one is Ralph Anderson and Associates, and the second one is Peckham and McKinney. The proposals for both of those firms are in your agenda packet. Those are the same proposals that were in the last agenda packet, but they're put here again for your reference. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, I think we'll have the clerk bring in Ralph Anderson and Associates to start the presentation and for you all to start asking questions.
So just before she comes in, let me explain to the public how we're going to, and the council, if they,
Sure.
how we're going to organize this. So we are going to bring in Ralph Anderson first, and then Peckham and McKinney in that order. And so when we bring in our first firm, what I'm going to do is give them 5 minutes and ask them to give an introduction. And after that, each of the council members have, the town manager put together some questions. We each picked our individual questions that we will be asking. We'll be asking the same question to each of the firms that we interview. And after we ask those questions, I will ask each firm to give 5 minutes of a closing statement. And then I will also bring in the second firm, which will be Peckham and McKinney. And when we bring that firm in, we'll do the same process. I'll ask them to also give 5 minutes introductory statement. We'll then ask the council to ask the questions again, and have them give their closing statement. After both firms have followed the same process, then I will take public comment, because you'll be able to hear from both firms. And the public comment period, after we close that, the council will hold a discussion, and we also then have voting ballots, and we will vote and turn that information into the town clerk on our decision. So that's how we'll go. So with that, let's I see Ralph Anderson here, and we have Sabrina Landreth, who will make your presentation. Would you like to give a 5-minute introductory statement, please?
Absolutely, and thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members for having us here. My name is Sabrina Landreth, and I am the incoming CEO of the firm. You have in front of you there a presentation that we put together. It sounds like I have 5 minutes to run through some of this, so I will do a very truncated version of this. Want to make sure that I have an opportunity to introduce myself and the firm, and certainly leave opportunity for you to ask questions, and so that we can make sure that you're getting the firm that's going to give you the stellar town manager that you deserve. So I'm going to go ahead and do a very quick presentation here, and just touch on, you have our proposal in front of you there, so I'm not going to repeat that. There's just make a couple of really key points here. Ralph Anderson has been around since 1972. We are, instead of calling us the oldest or the longest standing, I like to refer to us as the original. We really are kind of the mothership of the recruiting firms out here in the local government space. So we've conducted more executive recruitments really than any other firm. Who am I? I made sure that you have a copy of my bio there. We provided you a hard copy. In the proposal, we had included Heather Rentschler, who has been with the firm since 1985 as the CEO and the president, and is an active recruiter. I have now taken over as the CEO, but Heather is still with the firm, still is doing active recruitments, and we still have an opportunity to tap into her expertise and her resources. But I did want to include my bio, because I would be your recruiter in this as the CEO of the company. And that's important for you to know, because I have full authority to make all decisions on your recruitment, and wouldn't have to go back and ask somebody. We would have the ability to really to move this in the most efficient way. I've been doing work as a local government official for 25 years in California. I've run a smaller jurisdiction and some larger jurisdictions, and I have really a reputation for having one of the deepest networks into the talent that you all would be able to take advantage of. I've done hundreds of these recruitments, and I have the local knowledge and connection. My extended family actually lives here in the county. They've been here for about 25 years and have been able to spend a lot of time in your town and bring my kids to your tree lighting ceremony almost every year. It's one of their highlights. So I do really know this area and care about it. And I have a reputation of having really the highest standards for any sort of recruitment in the industry. Our approach to the search, I'm going to skip over this slide. You have our process there. But the most important thing that you should know is that we would start with individual interviews with each of you. This is your process. I would say my advice to you is really treat me as your staff person. I am here to serve you. I don't work for any candidates. I work for you. And we really pride ourselves on having a very customized process based off of what you all would like us to do and what you're looking for. This is a very unique community with some very unique needs. We've been able to be successful for 53 years because we adapt. We adapt to, again, what the body needs for us at that moment, and we don't try to kind of jam you through a template that we're telling you is going to work. No, you're going to tell me what it is that you want me to focus on. And I do want to skip to that next slide, which I think have heard through watching some of your meetings. I've done my homework and had a chance to talk to some others. And I really want to emphasize the fact that we have an expertise in doing community outreach and input, and doing it in a very customized way. So through the interviews that I would do with you, we would be able to put this process together. I would recommend not holding up kind of putting together the candidate profile and getting that brochure out there, but we would be launching the community process really in parallel with that outreach. And it's really important for you to know, because I've really heard how key this is for this community at this moment, that we hear from folks and we hear from really important stakeholders and be very have a big reach, not just talk at them but really listen. We have a lot of tools available that we have found work, and I have a staff person that I've brought with me who would be on the team, who is an expert at doing this, who really has a proven record of facilitating what I call listening sessions. And we would craft these listening sessions together, and make sure, again, that we're getting to the input that you all need and really deserve, so that you're getting the right candidate pool, and ultimately making the right selection. His name is Ian Appleyard. You have his bio there as well. He is a premier HR professional in California, has one of the most, I would say, stellar reputations as well, in smaller communities and in some larger communities where we would also want to tap into maybe some of the potential department heads that are in there. So Ian would actually be working with me. I would be your lead from start to finish. You'd be seeing me, communicating with me, but Ian would also be an added value where you'd have him as a supplemental to really work on making sure that we've got robust community outreach and input, and incorporating that into hopefully the candidate selection and this ultimate success for this person to come in and into your community. So I did want to add that in there. And that's something, as we have thought through your needs, we actually would add that in as part of our fixed fee, knowing how important that is. I think we had put in initially an additional charge for the community survey. Seeing that this is really going to be key to this recruitment, I don't think I could do this without that input. So I really would say we would offer that up as without any supplemental fee. So why Ralph Anderson? Just really briefly, we've got just unparalleled network that we can tap into. From the last 53 years, it's a process we know works, but you also get me. You get me. I have, again, networks that no one else has. I have sat in the seat. I have sat in the seat in California, and I'm not retired. This is not me, I've made a pivot here in my career and made a decision to go into this because I care passionately and deeply about communities such as yours to make sure that we're getting candidates in that are going to be successful. I care about this work. And so you would be getting, again, as the CEO of the company, me from start to finish. And I would be in the room with you. I would be in the room with you as we're deliberating and as we're going through those candidates. I have an ability to sort through, what people are saying. Is it real or not real? I can tell you on the technical side of things, a lot of people sound really good sometimes. I've been in the seat. I've got the technical background on both the fiscal side and, really importantly for this community, on the community development, economic development side of things, and have worked in a wide variety of issues and challenges. So I would be your staff person, and we'd be personally dedicated to that. And then you would also be getting Mr. Appleyard as the supplemental to help on the community facilitation work. I put up here, I'll skip it, you have a list of some of the sample recruitments. I just put up some kind of a random sampling to show you the sense of, and we've done a lot of smaller cities. We do have a placement guarantee, also very important to know. If for some reason, we went through this process and you didn't find that stellar person that you felt was going to, be set up for success here, we would, and if within a year of them being here, something happened, we would do that search again at no additional charge. That's how committed we are and how confident we are that we're also going to get you somebody and not just try to check the box here and move on to our next recruitment. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
All right, great. We are going to start with Council Member Knight.
Thank you, Ms. Landreth, for being here. So I have the first question, and it's really about, generally about town manager recruitment in small versus large communities. So in your experience, what specific recruitment strategies differ for a small, close-knit community like Yountville versus a larger city? And how will those differences shape your approach for this search? And then also, in my mind, not only necessarily the differences in experience between small and large, but cities with different main revenue sources. For example, Yountville having a reliance on TOT, whereas other cities are primarily have a reliance on other revenues, maybe primarily property taxes and sales tax. But sales tax and TOT are a big part of our significant part of our revenues. And how would that affect your searching?
Yeah, great question. So just first let me start on the sales tax and the TOT. Because you do have a unique mix here. And, you can, what is California? 490 cities. Majority of them are going to still be primarily property tax revenue cities. And so you will find people who maybe have been running a city or have been, deputy or an assistant somewhere, but they don't have really that acumen, the financial acumen to really understand the complexity of that. It is something that, again, I am very well versed in. I was a city manager in Emeryville for a while, and very much a city that I would say at least 70% of that city relies on TOT and sales and use tax. So I have the technical acumen. I can suss this out with candidates in a way that it's not just about reading their resume and saying that they've had experience running a city. Not all cities are the same. We all know that. So I would be able. I have an ability to do that. In terms of small versus large, lots of strategies around that. I think one thing that I always like to remind people is it's really not about just the size of the number of residents or constituents that you have right during the day. You have surges that come up of people who, with the tourism industry and with the hospitality industry where, you may have during the day times two. So, again, making sure that somebody who may see this and as a job announcement thinks, okay, I'm coming into 3,000. That sounds like something I can kind of, maybe I'm towards the end of my career and kind of be a seat warmer here. That sounds like a sleepy town kind of thing. And my job is to really set them straight. Say, no, this is a very complicated town. It's not just about reading the number of residents that you have. And so that's my job, is to really try to speak truth to them and to really suss that out of really where they are and their expectations of what they'll be walking into here. I like these gigs. I like the ones that are, again, going to be a little bit, more complicated and really, again, require a little bit more input from your community, your active community. I love that. I love it. And so this is really my bread and butter.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Councilmember Tripp.
Oops. Boy. Thank you. And thank you for the really condensed but helpful presentation, and your enthusiasm really comes through. So we all are asking designated questions, and we'll be asking all the other firm the same questions. But I picked this one because this occurred to me when it's been 3 years, 3.5 years when we went through this process with the previous town manager, which is if you could talk a little bit about how you develop your candidate pool, because that's really where it starts, I think. We're going to see people that first come in the door, and then you screen, and then eventually rise to that point. So could you talk a little bit about your outreach methods, how you identify maybe people who weren't thinking about leaving their job but could possibly be interested, and just how you would go about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So I think this would come as probably no surprise to you all, but the majority of the really good candidates are not actively looking for a job. And that's why you search out a firm such as ours. So we have the ability, again, we've been around since 1972. We have a database of thousands of candidates that are out there. So we really start by doing targeted outreach to people that we're familiar with, who we think, hey, maybe we've known them over the years, and this one really kind of sounds like it might be a good fit for them. So we start through, there's a lot of personal touch, a lot of outreach. We do place ads in, industry-specific media. We do social media, lots of LinkedIn. We look at kind of the industry-specific areas. But I am also, and Ian is as well, very, very active within, not just, again, the city manager, town manager community, but within our own kind of niche areas. So, it's also to get a little bit more creative, where maybe there's a department head who might be, kind of an up-and-comer who is, looking for that next gig where they really can have been running in some of these cities already. A department head is almost like their own town manager. They've been doing a lot of community work. They've been working directly with the elected boards. So, Ian, through his HR community, which is, again, is really unparalleled, and then mine within, again, town managers, but also within the community development, and also within kind of the finance and budget world, we're able to get people to pick up our calls.
So actually, you touched on, I just have two really quick follow-up questions that directly on this, and you already touched on this when we went through this previously. One of the things that I was struck was we did not see any people for whom this might be a promotion, as you suggested, a deputy or assistant city manager or a department head. I think exclusively saw people who had been town managers. So it sounds like that is a pool, and it seems to me that could be a good pool, because it could be a really good step for people this size city. So is that something you'd think about, and how would you go about that? How would you assess that type of candidate versus somebody who's had the job? And then my second question is, previously we saw one really good candidate from out of state. Do you have any thoughts on, California is a really specific environment. Any thoughts on out of state versus people who have worked in California?
Yeah, all fabulous questions. So let me start with the California and out of state issue. We are a national firm. We have a national reach. And this would be in, our individual meetings, and then as we collectively develop that candidate profile, really, taking your lead on, does somebody need to be, a California, well-versed person, or is it someone who has demonstrated these leadership skills and could learn the technical content? And that's something that you and I would work on that together. And there's pros and cons to this. Certainly on the fiscal side of things, California is going to be very unique. On the planning side of it, probably a whole lot there too. I have found in my experience, you can teach the content of a bright, sharp leader. You can teach them the content. How much patience you have to teach the content is going to be a question. You can't teach them how to be a leader. You can't you shouldn't expect that that's what you're doing at this level. You should have someone who knows how to communicate with you, who is transparent, who's got the highest levels of integrity and accountability, who has an openness, and who really fits with you. I mean, you all know that ultimately that's what it comes down to, is this person is really your trusted advisor. So, the California versus not California, we work through that together. And again, that's something I, because of my technical background, can help suss that out. Can that person really learn the differences between, sales and use tax in California versus Texas, which there's a lot of differences. So we would work through that. We are a California, Northern California-based firm with a national reach. We actually work in 21 states. At this point, the question around the assistants, the deputies, people who are looking for a promotion. Again, I would work with you all to tell me, what is it that you're looking for in this next town manager? Because the candidate pool of if you look at, and this is, happening all over local government right now, you've had a lot of retirements. You have a lot of people who have been town managers for, 30 years who have so much expertise and institutional knowledge, but they are retiring in pretty large numbers. So you're going to have a limited pool of people who are already sitting in those seats. It's not to say we wouldn't go after them. There are some great ones there who I know are not looking for jobs, and I know would love this one. So we'd be out there hustling, and I'd be doing the sales work that I'm supposed to do with all sincerity. But I also can tap into, because of my background and because I've also worked and run large agencies, I'm very familiar with a lot of up-and-comers who are sitting in those number 2s and number 3 spots. And remember, if they're running if they're a number 2 or a number 3 or a department head in a 5,000 FTE agency, they're probably pretty ready. Some of them pretty ready to take that step, and they need some encouragement to take that step. But it would really be about where you all are and what you're looking for. Do you want someone who's at that point in their career who could come in here and give you 15 years? Or is it, bringing in, okay, we need that person who has, that 30-year of sitting in the seat here, and who maybe would only give us maybe 18 months to 2 years, but that could be okay, depending on where your head is and what your needs are. So that's something that you and I would work through together. But I would absolutely say I do bring a pool. There's a lot of recycling of those same candidate pools. So I'm just going to be, you can learn with me, I'm a very frank person, very direct, and there is a lot of recycling of the same candidate pools that's happening, and you're seeing people are getting poached. They're just moving around from, I with all due respect, there's a journey town manager, city manager dynamic that's happening right now, necessary in some ways, but we've got to broaden the pool. We've got to bring in some fresh ideas and some people who really are going to start to be able to stay in these seats for a little bit longer. Long answer there. I have a lot of passion for that question, but we would be able to tap into both.
Okay,
yeah.
Thank you.
So I want to talk a little bit about community engagement. So what community engagement options do you recommend for Yountville? And how will community input be incorporated into the candidate profile and selection process?
Okay. Does this still work? Yeah. Okay. Let me see if I can go back to that. I glossed over this a little bit, but I do. It's important because I've put a lot of thought to this one. So what we would recommend in looking again and I would take your guidance on whether this works or not. We'd work through this in our first meeting together. Immediately be able to set up a dedicated email address where the community, and we've done this in some communities and had a lot of success with this, where people can, it's just open-ended. If they want to provide attachments, if they, the Chamber's got an economic development study they want to make sure candidates read or make sure that I'm aware of, we just open this up. We don't filter it. We just provide that information back to you. That's an easy one. That's one I would highly, highly recommend. We've had a lot of success. You're getting a little bit, and people can do it anonymously if they want. It's just a nice, easy way for the community to provide something to you. I'm going to go to the third bullet point next because the second one is the most important to highlight. So the third one is we also have the ability to do much more scientific community input survey. Ian is very, very trained and very specialized in doing this work. And this would be something where We would have a designated set of questions that I actually would work with you all and your staff, depending on how you would want me to do this, to have very specific questions that members of the community could respond to. And then we would analyze that data and pull out the important themes that we feel you should know about as you're making your selection in your town manager, and also to help inform me as I'm doing the outreach and recruitment. So this is not just about checking a box. We really do use that information and try to find the themes. And just to give you a flavor of the types of questions I like to put in that survey, one of them, and I learned this years ago from a community member in a smaller organization, and I just stole it and I always use it, is putting the question in there to the community. If you could ask the final candidate one question, one in the interview, if you got to sit in the room and ask that one question, what would it be? You get some pretty fun answers, responses there, but I have found that has been really one of the most informative questions that I've asked community members, and to be able to pull those themes out so that you can use that when you do your interview of these candidates. I'm going to go back to the listening sessions because that's really, really important. This can take a lot of different versions and flavors. There's everything from doing a full town hall. We've done those. Those can be valuable. Depends. And I would, again, take your lead on I don't know if you've done that for the last recruitment or not. Again, those can be valuable. We are finding more and more, though, that people are so busy. It can tend to be very, very hard to get people to come to one meeting or one town hall, even if it's in the evening or on a weekend. Not to say you wouldn't do it, and we talk about the pros and cons specific to your community. But we have found that what has been the most effective recently has been smaller listening sessions. And this would be a combination. Again, Ian is very well trained in facilitating these types of listening sessions. I would take your lead on what those key stakeholder groups are, probably group them, by, this would be very customized based off of what you would like here in Yountville. And so we would meet with those smaller groups. They tend to be more informative. You don't have one dominant voice, that's just drowning everybody out. And you can group it by, people tend to, it's human nature. They're going to be more comfortable in a group that, is of their peers. So whether it's going to be, maybe a smaller subset of the business community, or maybe it's going to be, a smaller subset of, hospitality, whatever it is that you would want us to do, that would be included. And we would do it all in person. We're both, local, not very far away. None of this would be done on Zoom. I don't really think it's very effective. Sometimes it works. It's more efficient, but I don't think for this community that's really what you deserve. I would be here in person. Ian would be here in person, and it would be a much more personalized touch in these smaller listening sessions. We have found that those have been really effective. Labor intensive, but that's as I said, we're willing to add that to our fixed fee. Because I can hear how important I think it is for you. Don't want to speak for you, but that's my impression. So those are some examples of what we would do, or what we would recommend, but we would refine this with you. It's customized, it's personalized, based off of what you need, how many, where, when, who, that would really be, you all would dictate that with us.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Vice Mayor.
Okay, I have the next question, which is defining the right fit. How would you help the council develop and reach consensus on the ideal candidate profile for Yountville? It seems like you're so enthusiastic, it might not be a problem for you.
Well, I've been a staff person to electeds for a long time, and I listen really, really well, and I interpret really well.
And I would be talking to each of you individually, and our conversations are confidential. I mean, each of you comes at this into your seats with, as individuals and your own experiences, your own opinions. And so we would have very candid conversations together about what it is that you want as an individual. And then my job is to synthesize that, interpret it to the best of my ability. But then we would come together, and nothing would go out the door. Nothing would be published, nothing would be final without this full body approving it. So I've been doing this a long time. I work for you. I'm your staff person. I will take in those individual, opinions and about that candidate profile. But ultimately, it would be the full body. And I have no doubt that we would come up with something together that will be very attractive to stellar candidates out there. They do exist. So anybody that's going to tell you this is not, that it's not out there, it is out there. I'm telling you, it's going to take a little bit, like any of these jobs right now. It's just going to take a little bit. That's why you hire us. We're not, going to go back to the same pool and just sit and wait just because we've put something out on a website and this is as good as we've gotten here. I guess I would also just commit to you. I would never recommend a candidate to you, and I will never recommend a candidate to you that I wouldn't hire myself. That's a really high bar, just so you know. I have a reputation in the business of being really, really a tough hire because I really look, you talk about fit. I can read resumes all day long. People can sound amazing. They've got education, they've got, experience. They probably have really good references. Now, mind you, they provided those references. But really, again, why I've decided to make this career change and why I have been successful hiring people for 25 years and people who go on to be huge successes. You asked me about kind of up-and-comers and being able to identify them. I'm really proud to see people that I saw 20 years ago are now police chiefs and fire chiefs and town managers all over the country because I was able to spot them. So this fit issue it's a big deal. It's a big deal, and it's very hard. You kind of know it when you see it. This is part of the job where there's the science of it, of going through and do they meet the minimum qualifications and, doing their background checks and all of these things. But ultimately, it's the feel right test. Does this person feel right to come and help lead your community? We'll be doing that together. I'll be making my recommendations based off of what I've heard from you and what I've heard from the community. But ultimately, it will be your decision to make. I'll be in the room with you. But this is where we are assessing those soft skills. And you can cut through some of the BS that maybe had been put out there where they're saying they're a great communicator. And you're interviewing them, and it's real apparent they really are not. I ask questions that are maybe a little bit less conventional as well. I guess I'll share some of my industry secrets here. But one of my kind of end questions that I ask candidates is, "What brings you joy in this work?" And I've got to tell you, that question alone is going to tell you so much about that candidate. They all answer it a little bit differently, but that's where the really good ones, you get a twinkle in their eye, and they start gushing about why they sign up for this work. And that's who you want. You want somebody, these jobs are tough. They're tough. This is not for the faint of heart. None of these. I don't care what community you're talking about. This is not for the faint of heart. You need somebody who really is in it for the right reasons, and I have an ability to be able to suss that out. And we would be doing that together. So I just shared one of my industry secrets on that question, but anybody can steal that. It's fine. Yeah.
Okay, question 5.
Yes.
Finally. My question is on transparency for the community and confidentiality, especially for the candidates. What is your recommended approach to confidentiality in this search, and how do you balance that with the public's interest in transparency and their expressed desire to be deeply involved in the process, especially knowing that we may attract passive candidates that do require confidentiality and need it to remain high. So how do we balance that?
This question always comes up. And it's tricky. It's really tricky. I would say the approach I'd like to take on it is, 100% transparency around the process. The process cannot be done in secret. It cannot be done without, I really credit you all for actually doing these interviews in open session. There are plenty of jurisdictions that don't do that. I think this is great. I think this is really good for the community to be able to see. I'm not hiding anything. This is how the process works. Being able to highlight for them all of these opportunities and how you all would be prioritizing these opportunities for them to weigh in, and different mechanisms. Again, not every way is going to work well for every individual or for every jurisdiction. To the point around confidentiality, it is a very real thing with these candidates. It's a tough market. Again, the really good ones, a lot of the really good ones, are not looking for jobs. If it were to get out that they're going through a process in a very public way, they do risk kind of running afoul with their own elected boards, and I've seen it. This is not just kind of an idea thing. It can happen. And so what will, and this is again where I am your trusted advisor, and I'll be really frank with you, you will miss out on some people. You will miss out on some people that would not want to put their name in if they knew that it would be public, that they're part of that. But you would know who they are. And there would have to be a level of trust and transparency, I believe, and it does work around the process, so that we know that, again, we're not just checking a box to hear what the community wants. And that's why I love that question around the survey. Well, okay, you're not, as a community member, you're not sitting in the room or interviewing that candidate, but if we took into account that question that you'd like to have, your elected board ask, and you'll see those same themes that would come out of there. So I would say it's a balance. It's tricky. We do things where, sometimes candidates require that we do the interviews and, on a Saturday in an undisclosed location, because maybe they are, in a neighboring jurisdiction, and people would actually recognize them. So we do try to work around that, so that we make sure that you're getting the best possible pool that you deserve. And so it is tricky in this business, just because it is competitive, and so much of what we do is in the public realm.
Right. So one more time, just for the record, you don't suggest the public get the opportunity to interview the candidate, even in a format that would be like a volunteer forum.
I would take your lead on this. It would be your decision,
Yeah,
but my job is to be your trusted advisor and your expert in this. And so it's something that I would recommend. Again, if you want to get the absolute best pool for the town that you deserve, I would recommend taking in the input and using all of that information as you make your
earlier
decision.
in the process.
As you're ultimately the ones who are making the hire. This is your staff person, but you'd have so much input.
Thank you.
I think you'd feel like the community's in the room with you.
Okay, that's important.
So, Town Clerk, can you put the timer up? I think it'd be easier for the applicants to kind of see. So, closing arguments, please.
Yeah. I went to law school for one day, literally. Decided that was enough for me. Just again, thank you. It's really a great opportunity for us to be able to be here. We feel really honored as a firm that's been around as long as we've been, to be able to kind of bring our expertise to this special place. And then for me as the new CEO, to bring in my pool of candidates and my expertise. Again, I'm not retired. I've got a lot of energy and a lot of passion for this work, and it really does pay off in terms of being able to get candidates to pick up the phone. They know me. They know Ian. We have a lot of legitimacy in this industry and in this work. So you deserve a fabulous town manager. I know we can work with you, work with the community, build a specialized or a customized process that is going to deliver. I have complete confidence in that. we don't take just any gig. We're here really because we know that we can provide that extra support that you need, and have somebody in here that's going to help this place continue to succeed. So really, thank you for the opportunity.
All right. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
So, John, what is going on with the AG today? In the words of Eric Housley.
So yes, through the chair, if I may, I recently became available at 3 o'clock today that the air conditioner wasn't working in here, and I did all my troubleshooting at the electrical board and with the thermostat. So I've already placed a work order, and we'll be investigating it first in the morning. And I apologize for the discomfort.
Oh, I'm sorry for you, too. It's beautiful outside, though. The temperature's perfect. I may have an advantage because I'm coming from Cameron Park, and I think it was like in the low 90s today. So this actually feels really nice.
It'll be 20 degrees
So let me tell you a little bit about how this is going to go. So we're going to ask you during a 5-minute period to introduce yourself and the firm. And then each council member and I have a question. We'll go through each one of those questions and then also put another timer up for 5 minutes for some closing statement you'd like to make. So,
okay.
And we're asking you the very same question we asked other candidates for this job.
Yes. All right. Thank you. So, first of all, good evening. Started out as afternoon, but good evening, Madam Mayor and members of the City Council or Town Council. Thank you for taking the time to meet with me. I'm Carl Cahill. I'm with Peckham and McKinney Executive Search, and I'm really excited to be here. It's a beautiful town. I have not been here before, but obviously in preparation for this evening, I conducted some research and did my own walking tour. I've spent more than 15 years as town manager for Los Altos Hills. I think there's similarities between both communities. I've sat in the seat that you're trying to fill, and I know firsthand what the job demands in terms of the, a high-touch community and taking care of the residents and the business owners. And I think the big question here tonight is why Peckham and McKinney versus any other? And I would like to start off with saying we do not sit back and wait for applicants to come to us. We are in hunter mode. You've heard the expression headhunter. We definitely earn that. We use our database. We have a very large database of well-qualified candidates. I do direct outreach, personal phone calls and emails. Also, we keep our search loads small. I am right now working on one other recruitment general manager position for Rancho Murrieta. And then also, I would say it's not always the strongest resume that gets the position, it's the fit. It's that manager needs to work well with the entire council. And so it's not that they're not qualified, it's just, number one, there has to be that trust and fit that will come out through the process. In the last 3 years, I've recruited 9 city managers. Real fast: Anderson, Angels Camp, Corning, Hollister, Ione, Pleasant Hill, Reading, Weed, and Wairika. These are real communities, real results. All of the incumbents that I've placed are still with their respective agencies. Nobody's gotten the boot. So, and then I put in front of you just a revised timeline. My understanding is, there's ideally we'd like to get moving immediately on this search. I am ready to start today, and I think that timeline that I put in front of you, I would say number one, mid-June is when we would kick off. It could be start tomorrow. I mean, there's usually like an agreement that has to be put into place. There's a little bit of that time, but pretty much start right away. June and July would be aggressive recruiting, and outreach plus broad advertising. We do spend a lot on advertising in publications that folks that want to be a city manager are going to look at. And pretty much that's nationwide. That's a nationwide search. And, you know, anybody who wants to be a city manager will know about this opportunity. And then it's my job then to find the most qualified of those candidates and present them to you. Late July, we'll have that meeting with the council, and I will present a short list of candidates that I'm recommending. You will have access to the full list, everyone who's applied, but certainly based on my expertise and experience, I would present the candidates that I think are best qualified. And I want to back up for 1 second. Before we prepare the recruiting brochure, I speak to all of you individually and get your input on what do you think the ideal city manager looks like? What are the qualities, the character, experience that candidate should have? The investment for the full professional search is $28,000. We stand behind our work. And if a candidate leaves in the first year, we do offer a follow-up search at a significantly reduced fee, as I've mentioned. 9 city managers I've recruited in the past 3 years, and they all continue to be with the employer. Yountville's a very beautiful place, and you have great weather. Notwithstanding the air conditioning not working today, but it's a beautiful place. I'd love to help this community find its next manager, and I'm happy to answer those questions that you have.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I'm going to go to Councilmember Knight for the first question.
Thank you, Mr. Cahill, for coming out today, and I appreciate your presentation. So my question is on small versus large community. In your experience, what specific recruitment strategies differ for a small, close-knit community like Yountville versus a larger city, and how would those differences shape your approach for this search? And just to expand on that, how would your recruitment strategies really differ for cities that may have different revenue sources? In terms of Yountville, unlike a lot of other cities, is very dependent on TOT, sales tax, whereas some other cities really are their primary revenue is property taxes. So we have some unique needs here in terms of the businesses here that generate those TOT revenues. So small versus large, and then just recruitment strategies for depending on differences in how revenues impact cities.
Yes. Okay, I'd say the primary difference between a town manager / city manager for a large and small city is that a small city manager has to be both strategic and operational. They have to be hands-on, but they also have to have that eye on the big picture. Quite often with larger jurisdictions, they're kicking out small city managers and saying, oh, they wouldn't understand our complexity. Well, I don't know that it matters that much, but I will say you have to be able to shift focus if you're at that small scale. So yes, the types of candidates that I would look for, I wouldn't necessarily change where we advertise. There's not a strong distinction between large and small cities in terms of, where applicants are going to look. But I am going to look at candidates who have the experience with smaller jurisdictions, and that, maybe they have a PhD, MPA, but they get it. They're going to roll up their sleeves. If it means taking out the trash, being engaged in the community, they're ready to do all of that. It's not strictly a visionary you're looking for. It's someone who can, bring, real operational skills, to your city. So they have to be hands-on. So it's going to be, for me, more of the type of candidate that I'm looking for, and I would expect as part of the profile, I will hear more from you on that ideal candidate.
Okay.
And so then the
Thank you.
question versus in terms of city differences for, I mean, in rural cities or small, the differences where revenue, the type of revenues they take in, how that would impact a recruitment strategy.
Well, yes, again, I think it would be looking at the candidate. I would say most cities in California do depend on the mix of property tax, sales tax, TOT. Usually that's popular because that's taking, that's tax on people coming into the town versus residents. So yes, I would look for candidates who at least have that experience. I think, in a town where there is, it's primarily residential, but then there is an outspoken business community as well, influential, strong community. I would look for someone who is probably a member of, is used to working with Chamber of Commerce's, economic development councils, member of Rotary. All of those organizations are helpful in furthering communications with the business community. I think ideally, I don't know what your sales tax rate is, but perhaps depending what the appetite is, what your fiscal condition is, if there's interest in a sales tax rate increase, someone who's knowledgeable about how to put that on the ballot, and how that can then legally be promoted by the city, town.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Tripp.
So I thank you for coming and thank you for your presentation. So my question, and I know you kind of touched on this, so it's not a hard question, but you'll be kind of your outreach, especially how you might identify passive candidates, in other words, people who aren't looking for a job. And then in particular, I would have an interest in reaching people for whom this would be a move up. On our last recruitment, we saw mostly people who were town managers or in some history of being a town manager. But, there's always a possibility there's some really good people that are one level below or in a larger city, something like that. So those would be my two questions. I mean, that's my question, but with an emphasis on, okay, I wasn't probably very clear. How would you get your candidate pool? Sorry, it's like 20 to 6. I should have eaten something. Your candidate pool, how you would reach out to that candidate pool with a focus on how you would get to candidates who aren't necessarily looking for a job. So they may not be looking at the Cal Cities listings or something for town managers, city managers. How would you get to those folks?
Right. Well, first, I'm going to, the very first thing I'm going to do is, again, 3 years I've hired city managers for 9 cities, most of them small cities. I'm going to start looking at our database, and I'm not the only recruiter recruiting for smaller cities in our firm. So I'm going to look at everybody that I know does have interest in being a city manager, and a lot of those candidates may currently be the CFO for their organization. They may be a community development director.
Okay.
I think you could use all of that. I see that you have a complex relationship on water and sewer. It involves the state, city of Napa, and other agencies. I'm doing a recruitment right now for a special district that's primary services are water and sewer. I know I have candidates there. So I'm going to start with that pool immediately. Then the other thing, I use various online tools such as Transparent California. I look for folks that have, and LinkedIn, I might add. And I look for candidates that have the experience, potentially could do the job, possibly people I've already met. And then, and I look at Transparent California because based on what the salary is for this position, I'm not going to try to reach out to folks that are maybe already above that in terms of their salary or their comp. So, but then I'm going to I'll do potentially cold emails, and introduce myself. If I'm not already connected with them on LinkedIn, I'll send them an invitation. So those are all things I'll do that definitely will cast a wide net, especially for candidates who are already in the public sector. Private sector is more difficult. So they would, if, and I don't know if you have a lot of interest in a candidate from the private sector. I think there's limitations there, and I would, if I was bringing a private sector candidate to you, I would want them to have, been actively looking, like they already have this idea they want to migrate over to the public side. So I think that pretty much answers your question. That's the strategy I would use.
That was great. And we do have a complicated relationship, but we have a great director of public works who makes it all work on our water and sewer with the vet's home and extended anyway.
My hat's off to whoever.
Yeah, he does a great job. But it does just the whole relationship with the vet's home and state of California. It is a complexity to our town for sure. But thank you.
My question is, what community engagement options do you recommend for Yountville, and what community input would you incorporate into the candidate profile and selection process?
Okay, so I'll start my answer off with the five of you, the 5 elected officials of Yountville are perfectly capable of hiring your next town manager. That's like part of your job. That's part of your lane. Many communities that I work for do want a component, public engagement component in their search. I would say maybe half. And that can take different forms. It can be a survey, a written survey that we send to specified individuals that you designate. Maybe it's the president of the Chamber of Commerce, certain business owners. We can do it that way. You can have we can do like kind of a focus group, essentially convene a meeting here. I think that's less organized. It's hard to, I don't recommend that, but you can do that. That is one option. And then the other option is when you have your interviews, you've selected your finalist candidates, and you have your interviews, you can set up a panel that could include a member of the business community, a member of one of your your legislative bodies, one of your town committees. I'm assuming you have town committees. And you may have a staff member. You could, and I would think it's very important that you set the expectations that the council is making the decision. The input is valued, but if you have another panel and they decide on another candidate, it's like they have to understand that you may not be looking for that level of specificity. You want some general feedback versus here's who we think you should hire. I would just say that it's important to be very explicit and detailed in what you want that panel to, the information that you want from them, the type of recommendation you're looking for.
All right, thank you. Next question the Vice Mayor has.
My question is about defining the right fit. How might you help the council develop and reach consensus on the ideal candidate profile for Yountville? Okay.
So let's just say we're here on interview day, the first set of interviews. Typically, an elected board is looking at about 6 candidates. You could look at a few more, but a full day of interviews is about 6 candidates. And I think my recommendation is after each interview, don't have a lot of comment. Don't wait until you've heard from you've interviewed all of the candidates. And then we start out with, okay, who's definitely no? There's always going to be a few where it's like, no, not for us. It just happens that way. It is typically pretty easy to get down to a grouping of 3. And then there's, from there, we're going to talk about those candidates and kind of put a list of the strengths and concerns for each candidate. Sometimes we do get into situations where there is, I wish we could hire both, but you can't. You only have one manager. So at that point, what I would recommend is if you can get it down to 3, you're in good shape. Sleep on it, conduct the second interview with those, and in that first interview process, receive any input from any other panels you utilize, any other interview panels. Then dismiss them. It's now in your court. And so if you have a decision, the luxury of deciding between 3 top candidates, then sleep on it, have that second interview, maybe set it up as more informal, like a more informal process, a short exercise. Like give us a PowerPoint, here's the budget, here's a council meeting where we talked about the budget and you can see what our issues were. Tell us what you would do. That kind of thing. Give them a scenario, an exercise, so you can see them more of their thought process. With interview questions, they're all canned. I mean, there's no way they can't be. they're all, But that's also, that second interview is the opportunity for you to ask more questions more to your heart versus all of the standard stuff. We get all that out of the way, and then, each of you ran for city council for a specific reason or reasons. And so that's the time to get their thoughts on things that are near and dear to your hearts as well.
So following up on that, can you tell us how you might help us refine what the profile we're looking for in a candidate before you kind of launch out into the pools?
Yeah, okay, well, if I back up, and I mean, it really starts out with a series of questions that, and that's in our process where I will contact each and every one of you by phone, one-on-one, and ask you, what is it that you're looking for in your next city manager? What do you see as the key challenges in Yountville? What are some of the strengths? What do you think are things that are great about the town? That's so I have like a whole, typically it's about 10 questions that I'll be asking you and then getting your input. And then, of course, if there's something you want to add, we have that. And then I take my notes from every council member and compile that into the ideal candidate profile. So it's everyone's input, and there's typically quite a few commonalities, in terms of the type of candidate you're looking for. And there's just going to be, until you actually interview these folks in person, resumes can look great. If you look at the resume, let's hire this person. And then it's like, oh, after we talk to him, we're not so sure. So it's a multi-step process. Also, with the recruiting brochure, the whole brochure is about 1,500 words. And there's all of the stuff. We talk about the community. We describe the compensation, the basic requirements for the position. Like, yes, you have to have a college degree. You need, 10 years of increasingly responsible managerial experience. And then the profile, which, maybe that's about 350 words. So we got to pack a lot into a very small space. So that's just one piece of it. And that's how I would, as we start getting focused on who this right candidate is, that's where I start. And I would just say it's kind of multi-layered along the way.
Thank you.
And Councilmember McKee, you're last.
So my question is regarding transparency for the public's sake, yes, and confidentiality for the client or the candidate's sake. So what is your recommended approach to confidentiality in this search, and how do you balance that with the public's interest in transparency and their expressed desire to be deeply involved in the process, knowing we may attract passive candidates that do require confidentiality?
Okay. So I would highly recommend, California allows it, maintain confidentiality in your process up until you're ready to announce your candidate. And there is a period of time between where you all settle on one candidate and before the contract goes to a public session where you vote on it and decide to approve it. And that certainly is going to give time for anyone to dig up anything they want on the candidate. I would strongly recommend that the council has to take charge of the process. That's just how I think it should be done.
To kind of back up a little bit and to clarify, we have been asked if some town members could join or form a focus group and be part of the interviews up early in the process. And I know you mentioned to the mayor's question, there could be some stakeholder engagement, but yes, that would be kind of key stakeholders. Right. So we're just trying to suss your experience on whether the public in general has ever formed some kind of a committee and been involved in the process, and yes, how you would feel that candidates, especially ones that are employed, would feel about that.
Yeah, there is a time to bring in the community. I am thinking of a community that I recruited a city manager for where they had 25 managers in 25 years. So, and, yes. Ouch. They were tough. They were tough. And they knew it. They weren't like trying to pretend they weren't. So, that process included interviews with the council and then a separate panel elsewhere with residents. And, residents that each council member picks a resident to be on the committee. So yes, they had access, on interview day, they had access to the resumes, cover letters, supplemental questionnaires of those candidates. So it's more controlled. It's not until the day of the interview versus, weeks before where it's going to get out. You will lose confidentiality if you have the public, it's a public process at that point, at the moment you share that information. And the other step you can take is when you have that panel of community members, it's like a little bit of, about 5 minutes of education. Like, this is a confidential process. You cannot share this information with your friends. You shouldn't be sharing it with anyone. Yeah. It's confidential. And the hearings are, or the interviews are closed session. Or, so the public isn't watching.
And candidates, have they ever asked you, like, what the process is for the city? And looked at that as a
yes challenge? And that is, we state that up front, that it's confidential. If you want a process that at some point becomes, I personally, I interviewed for a city manager position in Colorado, and the laws are different. So they had a meet and greet process, but again, toward the end of the process, but before they made a final selection. And if the candidates know that, that's great. Like, and if they agree to that, but we would have to, we would disclose that up front. Like, if you want an earlier date for when the public gets involved, other than through an interview panel, then I would say we would need to let the candidates know that. Mm-hmm. And I do think it will impact your pool, because if they're already employed as a manager somewhere else, or even if they're a department head, and the current council finds out, they're interviewing for this other jurisdiction, it's not. It could harm their situation. Yeah. So that you may lose folks as a result of having a more upfront disclosure of who the candidates are.
Okay, thanks for explaining all of that. I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. All right, time for your 5-minute close. If you'd like to make any closing statements, we'd appreciate to hear them.
Okay, so I'm excited about this recruitment. I am thinking of names already of candidates that I think are well qualified that I would have no problem presenting to you. So I know you'll find a very good candidate. I definitely would appreciate your business. Happy to spend my summer recruiting for the town manager for the town of Yountville. And that's the other thing I was going to mention is if there is a goal in mind here, say city manager, contract voted on early September. We'll have to move quick, and it may mean folks moving vacation plans around so we can, hit our meetings and everything. So that's just to keep that in mind. And I think with that, that's all I have to say at this time.
All right. Well, great. Thank you very much for stopping by Yountville and taking a tour before you came in and talked to us. So.
Well, thank you very much, Madam Mayor and members of the City Council.
Nice to
Appreciate
meet
the
you.
opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Are they going back into the staff offices? Okay.
They're being sequestered.
Okay. So somebody's taking them back in.
Is any public left?
Can they get back in because it's after 5?
I had to. I couldn't help myself.
Can they get back in? Okay, the doors are locked. Okay. All right, so now public comment. Do we have anybody from the public, now that you've heard both of our candidates, if you'd like to make a comment, this be time to do it. I don't see
on, Margene,
anybody who wants to make a comment then. So I will bring it back. What we're going to do now, we can have some discussion, and we have ballots. So after our discussion, we can mark our ballots, and staff will tell us where we'd like to go. Who would like to start with a discussion?
Oh, I could go.
All right, the vice mayor is going to step up to the plate.
I don't know if we should talk about the elephant in the room, but they are total opposites.
Yeah, they are.
Which is really difficult because both have their points and possibilities. Certainly the facility with which, what's her name? Sabrina speaks is amazing. And the fact that they have a dedicated person who has done community outreach is a major plus. And I feel like there have been some questions about that particular company, so I would like the town attorney to kind of address as much as you can.
Sure. So I'll say that, it's common for all recruitment firms to have folks who do this as careers, but also folks who help them that are from the industry and from local governments, because you want to have folks who have that background and understand the role. And that was something that you saw Ralph Anderson and Ms. Landreth emphasize in her presentation to you all. With that, though, comes all the work experience that can come with working for any city or being involved with local government for some time. So, anyone who's been in a position or who has worked for local government is going to have that work experience coming into that role, and Ms. Landreth is no exception. So, I didn't see anything disqualifying in the background or anything that was there. But certainly, as her resume states, she's had a lot of experience in local governments and has held those positions for many years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, Councilmember Knight.
Just discussion. I definitely, I'm leaning in on Ralph Anderson, but in terms of, we've got the questions of, they both talked about outreach, but so in the initial proposal for Ralph Anderson, we're paying more for their services, but there's a fee for a community input survey, but I couldn't get in her conversation, obviously, an email or a listening session. Did anyone gather whether there was additional costs for?
Yeah, no, I wrote that down.
She would waive that.
For both the survey as well as the listening session, they usually have a charge. We can quote her as saying that she would waive charges for both of those items.
Okay, then in terms of with Peckham, he talked about it, but I guess we didn't get into any maybe a conversation with him about fees or anything like that for online surveys or anything. Did anyone hear or gather what he said that would cost?
I think he has that in his brochure, so we can. Would you like that information?
No, I thought I was looking at the brochure there and I didn't. Maybe I missed
brought
that.
my spreadsheet
Project
with
costs.
that, but 1 second.
I'm going typically.
I have some of my notes online. Let's see.
Optional service community survey, should the town choose to conduct a community survey with summarized results, this service would cost an additional $4,500.
There you
Okay.
go.
It's right on the last page.
I missed that, okay.
Wait, that was Ralph Anderson, not Peckham.
Sorry, I'm on.
Correct.
In the middle. Okay, so thank you
So-
for clarifying that Anderson is waiving the 45.
Right.
Sorry about that.
Peckham is just straight 28,000.
Right.
And I didn't see fees.
It had a pretty good brochure, but nothing really listed on their
Fees.
thing that said they do very much outreach.
I'm sure he would if we, without, I mean, I'm just speaking generally, consultants usually, if you're willing to figure out a acceptable fee, will do additional work. I wanted to just say, I agree with Councilmember Reeves' comments. I did really like the Ralph Anderson CEO, her enthusiasm. She had done homework, which when I would go through hiring myself, I always gave candidates an extra check mark for doing homework about the community. Just shows an interest in the position. I really liked the fact she's worked, well, I'm from the San Francisco Bay Area, but Emeryville is kind of a unique town. They have not very many residents, but an IKEA and some really large hotels, so not that different from Yountville, although now they've done a lot of building in Emeryville, so maybe they do have more property tax. But I liked that she had that experience as well as working for the city of Oakland in a couple positions and also the East Bay Regional Park District. And I liked the fact she had just done, as a manager, a lot of hiring, and I kind of believed her when she said she could sort through BS from real qualifications. So I thought Mr. Cahill was a very pleasant man, and and probably very good at what he does, and his, placing 9 people in 3 years is certainly a good track record. But as between the two, I would be leaning more towards Ralph Anderson.
I will echo that. Sabrina is definitely more energetic, and although she didn't say it, Mr. Cahill did. She seems like a natural-born hunter, and she definitely was a salesperson, and she was aggressive. But I do appreciate that she had more of a knowledge of our town and certainly our dependency on TOT. I think the fact that they realized the importance of the community input and said we wouldn't do this search and placement without that community input. We realize how important that is at this time in Yountville's, place in history. So we're going to add that to the mix at no charge is good. I definitely liked Mr. Cahill, but I felt like his comprehension of our town as a destination and the TOT is just a little more tentative, and I feel like that would come through in his outreach to clients as opposed to Sabrina's. Would be more confident.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And that's what I think. When we look at both ones, Mr. Cahill has a lot of experience, but we're talking about some fairly rural communities, ag communities, and I think Ralph Anderson has experience with a lot more cities, towns, small that have the type of business mix that we have, which is important for a town manager to be able to balance that relationships in a small community with a large TOT. So I feel too that Ralph Anderson really is the recruiter that kind of will speak to our needs and find the person that will serve Yountville best.
Yeah, I really like that that Sabrina. At first, we thought that Heather was going to be our contact person, and we got Sabrina, and she's now the CEO. And the only negative I really have is she's going to be CEO and hiring our town manager at the same time. It's like how busy she's going to be, but. I was, I thought that she really expressed to me that she really wanted to stay on a timeline. And for people to be able to do that, I think is really going to be important for us. And that I thought that was really a strong suit for her. Also, I think she had a really great appreciation for our TOT issues and how that really flavors the type of town manager we're looking for. It drives our economics, which really drives really everything that we can really provide, what kind of services we can really provide for this community and how we can pay our bills. So, I was a little concerned, but we can always have this discussion with her too about department heads versus the candidate pool versus somebody with a CEO. I think it's going to be important for all of us to provide that information during our interviews. What we're looking for, what we're not, because the more information we can provide them, the better job that they can do for us. So I think we all need to, give that kind of some thought. What would you like? Are you going to be open to everything versus, no, I think I really want this. And so each one of us will, want to come at something a little different. But, I think if we can narrow down, truly asking ourselves, what do I really want? And telling them, even though it's 5 different things, I think that's going to be important for us to do this job. Overall, I really, I thought Peckham and McKinney, my first concern was that he already had, a full list of candidates. I really want, those passive candidates out there, I'm kind of very interested in those. So, and I felt that Sabrina would do a good job there. And I think also with Peckham and McKinney, I didn't get a clear, thoughtful sense about outreach to the community. Here's some options, here are the pluses and minuses of each one. That didn't really come across to me. And let's see, so, I think, considering both of them, I would also support Ralph Anderson with my vote as well. So, Vice Mayor, yes.
I just want to add one thing about the outreach component. I think that the fact that they did so much homework and put thought into how best to get that outreach going makes them seem more able to hit the ground running and just have a clear idea of how to accomplish what we're hoping for. So I feel like that really makes them the more viable candidates.
And yeah, again,
I agree.
Peckham and McKinney did not have it in their original brochure. I think, we asked that be brought back. I felt that really fell short between the two candidates. So I think that had a lot of influence because I do want to make sure that there's a lot of pieces to this and we get it right. So
Mr. Cahill, too, he kind of emphasized in a small town that town managers maybe have their hands in a lot of pots and all that. And I think the unique thing about Yountville is we have directors in this community that have just a tremendous amount of experience, and we're the candidate. I think maybe Ms. Landreth will help us. Is someone that will be in a different, more of the visionary, because we have the staff here that just is just.
I couldn't agree more. Yes, I think that's really what I'm going to be looking for. I do not want a micromanager of our staff. Our staff, they know their expertise, and I want them to go do it and feel empowered to do it. And I don't want to go backwards in that. Mm-hmm. It's very important to me, too. So.
I also, the question you asked, Mayor, the community engagement, I like that they would do I jotted down scientific input survey and then analyze the data into themes so we could digest it a little bit better, because I have the survey that we did 3 years ago, and it was just long, 28 answers or however many people answered, but for 5 questions. So we would have to do our own kind of thematic work. I like listening sessions with she gave us options with the smaller listening groups, whatever we'd like to see. So I do feel like she's just one step quicker on being able to customize what she's hearing from us.
Okay. So.
Mayor, I'm ready to make a motion, or?
I think we're
for
going to
public,
have votes.
we need to, okay, all right.
We already took a public comment. I got this down.
Oh, yeah, we did.
Okay,
we
we're
were
going to
already
just.
had
We didn't remember any.
Okay. What is this for? We're going to firm. Firm, round number. Okay, explain to me round number firm.
What does round number mean?
Yeah, just put your.
Number one? Okay, so
I
we're
see.
round one.
Oh. Oh, I filled my ballot out wrong.
Put your name on and pick one.
I picked one twice.
Here, I have extra ballots. Here's an extra ballot. You want another ballot?
Can I vote twice?
Did you? Yeah, we see that.
Okay.
We know what you mean. Check your ID. I think it was meant to ask your name.
It is. Do we have a unanimous decision? Or did
Allow us one moment to
Vice Mayor
tabulate.
need to
and I will.
revote? Did she screw it
You
up?
and the Secretary of State.
I see 8.
Okay. And without further ado, no need to tabulate. There is a unanimous decision to enter an agreement with Ralph Anderson and Associates.
Great. So now the direction is to the town manager with the help of our town attorney to draft up a contract and bring that back. Any statements or questions you need from us?
That all makes sense. We just need a formal vote. So motion second. I know we did
Okay.
this polling thing,
All
but
right,
let's
so-
do it
Mayor,
as a
I'll make
motion.
that motion to approve hiring Ralph Anderson for our town manager recruitment.
And to authorize the interim town manager to sign that contract.
And as stated.
I would too.
Thank you.
I second.
A motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Okay. On to staff presentations and
Mayor,
information
just real
reports.
quickly,
Yes.
in terms of with our guests here today, you're going to go talk to them now? Okay. Thank you.
Mayor, we
Yeah.
have no staff presentations this evening, for real.
Music to our ears. Thank you very much. Any council external meeting reports? Nope. All right. Can I get a motion to adjourn to our next regularly scheduled meeting on Tuesday, June 16th at 3 p.m.?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. That's unanimous. So that's a wrap, everybody. Thank you for being with us this afternoon.
Okay, public, did we do okay?
Mine was a space when she talked about on charging us for the community outreach. I totally went right by me when she talked about, when she said that.
Well, that was good. She's a pistol. Yeah, no, it feels, yeah, we all agreed, so that was good.
Yeah. Oh, I know.